Chapter 42:31. Seeing that Wang Yu was seriously injured, Yi Feifei gently pulled Du Fan's sleeve and said to Wang Yu, "The injury on your back is serious. Treat it first, otherwise it will be inflamed. In this forest, because of the climate and the bad conditions, some injuries would be very troublesome if they were not treated in time. Wang Yu, come here and sit down. I'll treat your wound first." The woman who supported Wang Yu said as she helped him to sit down. At this time, the middle-aged man and the old man looked at each other, and then they cupped their hands to Du Fan and Yi Feifei, saying, "Thank you for your help. I'm Lin Dong, the head of the Lin family, and this is the elder of the Lin family. How should I address you?" Du Fan nodded slightly and said, "My surname is Du." He didn't say anything else after that. "My name is Yi Feifei," she said with a smile. "Are you old friend with Wang Yu?" The middle-aged man, Lin Dong, asked and looked at Wang Yu. You can say that we know each other," Du Fan said. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed a bottle of medicine forward. "Use this. Yes, your injuries will heal faster." "Thank you." Wang Yu took the bottle and knew that it was the medicine of the ghost doctor, which was very precious. He couldn't help but feel grateful. He handed the medicine to the woman and looked at Yi Feifei enviously, saying, "Miss Ye's strength has improved rapidly. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it." Hearing this, Yi Feifei was happy and said with a smile on his face, "I have improved a little because Big Brother Du has been training me for the past few months. You don't know how I survived these few months. It is not easy to have the strength I have now." Then she smiled embarrassedly and looked at Du Fan beside her. Seeing that he was looking at her, she said with a smile, I know. I can't be complacent. I have to guard against arrogance and impatience." But as soon as she finished speaking, she took out a small bow, an arrow from her waist, as if presenting a treasure, and said, "Wang Yu, look, this is the treasure I got here. My archery is now very accurate." Seeing this, Du Fan shook his head helplessly, but a smile appeared on his face. He looked at Wang Yu and asked, "Are you going to stay here or leave?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man glanced at Wang Yu and said to Du Fan, "Young Master Du, it's like this. Now that we have suffered heavy casualties, we can no longer practice here. I plan to take them away." Du Fan nodded. "It's good to leave. At least we can save our lives if we turn back and leave the Cyan Devil Forest. It's hard to say if we continue to go deeper." He looked at the sky and said, "Since you guys are out of danger and we still have things to do, we won't stay here for long. Take care." Hearing this, Wang Yu, who had been silent, saw that they were about to leave. She immediately stood up regardless of the wound on her back and said, "Can I follow you?" Hearing this, Du Fan was slightly surprised and looked at him. "Why do you want to follow us? You're injured like this. You should leave here and go back to recuperate. Although I'm stronger than when I first came in, I'm not that much stronger, so I—" As he spoke, he looked at Du Fan with a pleading gaze. "Please let me follow you. I won't make trouble for you. I just think that when you train Misty, I can also train with you." Chapter 42:32. Du Fan's eyes flashed slightly. He glanced at him and said, "Your strength can't keep up with us. If you encounter danger, you can't protect yourself. The danger in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest is far more dangerous than what you have encountered now. Moreover, you should know the purpose of our trip. Wang Yu, your injury." The woman supported him, but he pushed her away. He stepped forward and knelt down. His eyes were firm. "I know, but I want to be stronger. Please take me with you. I will try my best to keep up with you and won't drag you down." Yi Feifei felt sorry for him, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at Du Fan and wondered what he would do. "It's Master's decision to let you stay. If you want to follow us, wait for me to ask Master," Du Fan said. He glanced at him and said, "Get up first and treat your wound. Also, the smell of blood here is too strong. You have to leave as soon as possible, lest other fierce beasts are attracted." Lin Dong and the old man naturally knew this. They wanted to leave after Wang Yu was bandaged, but they did not expect that Wang Yu suddenly knelt down and begged to follow them. At this moment, the two of them were a little surprised. "Treat your wounds. We're going to move back," Lin Dong said. He pulled Wang Yu aside and asked in a low voice, Wang Yu, have you really decided to go with them? Who the hell are they? Can you follow them like this? Du Fan took Yi Fei to a place not far away. He took out his communication jade plate and asked Feng Jiu's decision. After all, if they wanted to take Wang Yu with them, it would not be a matter of 1 or 2 months. They might have to stay here for half a year or even a year. If they wanted to take someone who didn't belong to them with them for so long, they naturally had to ask Feng Jiu's decision. About 7 or 8 minutes later, Du Fan and Yi Fei came back. Looking at Wang Yu, who was looking at them nervously and waiting for them to announce their decision, Du Fan smiled and said, "Come with us." Master agreed. Hearing this, Wang Yu finally felt relieved. He showed a relieved smile and looked at Lin Dong. "Uncle Lin, I will go with them. Be careful on your way back." Lin Dong sighed inwardly. He looked at him and asked, "Wang Yu, if you go with them, how long will you stay here?" "Your marriage with Ji Lin." Lin Jilin looked at Wang Yu. Her beautiful eyes filled with reluctance. After getting along with each other for a few months, they fell in love with each other and decided that Wang Yu would come to propose marriage after they got out of the Cyan Demon Forest. But now, "Wang Yu, do you really want to go with him?" she asked softly, her eyes full of reluctance. Wang Yu said apologetically to Du Fan and Yi Fei, "Please wait for me. I need to say a few words to them." The two nodded and went to wait for him not far away. "Uncle Lin, I don't know how long I will stay here, but now I have this opportunity to follow them. Even if the road ahead is full of danger, I must go." His voice paused as he looked at the woman beside him and said, "As for my marriage with Ji Lin, I want to wait until I return before going to the Lin family to propose. However, if Ji Lin meets someone more suitable than me, I will give her my blessings." Chapter 42:33. Not far away, Du Fan and Yi Fei glanced at Wang Yu and the woman. Du Fan didn't care, but Yi Fei said with a mocking face, "Brother Du, look how powerful Wang Yu is. It's only been a few months, but he's able to talk about a marriage by himself. Miss Lin is also very beautiful. He's really lucky." Du Fan glanced at him and said, "Is he powerful? Even if he's powerful, he won't be scratched on the back by a ferocious beast. That wound won't be so easy to heal. Now he has to follow us. He'll suffer. I thought that since Master let him follow this family, he wouldn't be allowed to follow us to join Master. I didn't expect that Master would agree in the end." Yi Fei said with a smile, "I know that he sees my strength getting stronger and wants to follow you to improve his strength." Du Fan snorted and said, "I can teach you and train you without reservation because you're one of us. I can teach you some martial arts and cultivation methods that are not taught to outsiders. Even when you advanced some time ago, I gave you the elixir refined by Master to improve your strength. But he's not one of us. Even if he follows us, it's impossible for him to be like you. That's why I was so wise to choose to follow Master. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing now." She couldn't help sighing. She really felt that the decision she made at that time was the most correct one. There's still room for improvement in your strength. What's more, you've got such a treasure. Archery can be used to attack from a distance, which is also your specialty. You have to work hard to improve. You know that there are no weak people around Master. If you stay stagnant, you'll be assigned to other places one day." Hearing this, Yi Fei nodded seriously and said, "Well, I know. I'll work hard to improve my strength. I won't disgrace you." Seeing this, Du Fan didn't say anything more. At this time, they saw that the family had left, and Wang Yu was coming towards them. "We can go," Wang Yu said, looking at the two people. "Then let's go." Du Fan didn't let him rest for long. Instead, he turned around and walked into the depths. He said, "My master has already found traces of the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. Now, he's searching for it. He wants us to meet up with him as soon as possible. You can follow him." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward. His figure was extremely fast. "Follow me." Yi Fei followed Du and waved to Wang Yu. Even though her strength had improved, she couldn't keep up with Du Fan's footsteps, but at least she wouldn't be left behind too. Even so, he didn't make a sound. Even so, he didn't make a sound. He didn't make a sound. But even so, he didn't make a sound. He didn't make a sound. He didn't make a sound. He didn't make a sound even so. He didn't make a sound. He didn't he, and his he, Fant, behind, he tus, was to follow was he. 3 days later, Wang Yu, who was already very haggard, staggered. She held the tree beside her to prevent herself from falling. Chapter 42:34. Dufan stopped and looked back. Then he came to Wang Yu's side. I'm fine. I can keep walking. Wang Yu said. His lips were dry and cracked. Because the injury on his back had not fully recovered and he had no time to rest, his face was very pale. After a few days, he had lost a lot of weight. Take a rest, Du Fan said. We should be near the place, the master said. I'll check the map again. You sit down and rest for a while. Hearing this, Yi Fei helped Wang Yu sit down, gave him water, and said, Take off your coat. I'll help you change the dressing. In such an environment, it was possible for the wound to worsen if he sweated all day without taking a bath. No, it's okay. I'll be fine after a rest, Wang Yu said, shaking his head. Seeing this, Yi Fei did not say anything more. He sat next to Du Fan, who was looking at the map, and asked, Brother Du, are we almost there? Well, it should be in front. Du Fan pointed to the mountain in front and said, According to Lung Shuang, it's that mountain. Let's wait for the master there. Well, let's go. Wang Yu gritted his teeth and stood up. Seeing this, Du Fan said, Take a rest. He paused and asked, Is your wound getting worse? It's much better with the dressing, but I accidentally bumped into it yesterday. But it's okay. I'll clean it up when we get there. Fei, please help me with the dressing, Wang Yu said. Hearing this, Du Fan said, Fei, take off his clothes and check the wound. Okay. Yi Fei answered and said to Wang Yu, I'll take off your coat and check your wound. You can't stay like this. The wound needs to be treated first. Finally, under their persuasion, he took off his clothes. When they saw the inflamed wound on his back, they both frowned. The wound was more serious than they had imagined. Some parts had already started to fester, and the surrounding area was red and swollen. They guessed that the wound had not been cleaned properly and was infected. We have to find a water source and let him wash his entire body. Otherwise, his injuries won't heal, Yi Fei said with a frown. Then let's go to the front. There's a water source ahead where the masters gather. Du Fan said, looking at Wang Yu, Let's go. Hold on a little longer. All right. Thus, he followed them and continued forward. Ever since Feng Jiu found traces of a nine-tailed spiritual fox that day, he had been searching the surrounding area. The search area was also expanding day by day. However, after a few days, there was still no news. On this day, knowing that Du Fan and the others would be arriving soon, Lung Shuang went to the place where they had agreed to meet. When they arrived, they saw a few people washing themselves at the source of the spring. Lung Shuang looked at each other and walked forward. When did you arrive? Feng Jiu asked, walking towards them. Master, Du Fan and Yi Fei turned around. When they saw her, they smiled and said, We just arrived. Ghost Doctor. Wang Yu cupped her hands and saluted her with her upper body naked. Looking at the wound on Wang Yu's back, Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows and said, Why is it so serious? The wound is inflamed. It's a long story. Wang Yu smiled bitterly. Chapter 42:35. Du Fan followed and left. Yi Fei helped him clean up the wound before walking to Feng Jiu with Wang Yu. Ghost Doctor. Wang Yu called and looked at her. Turn around. Feng Jiu said. He thought she wanted to see his wound, so he answered and turned his back to her. Du Fan, Yi Fei, and Lung Shuang stood aside and watched without speaking. Feng Jiu raised his hand, and the spiritual power in his palm surged. A green light diffused out and slowly covered the wound on Wang Yu's back. The red and swollen wound gradually healed with the green lotus spirit in his palm. Wang Yu only felt a cool feeling between the skin and flesh on his back, which was extremely comfortable. He wanted to look back, but because the people behind him didn't let him look back, he could only stand still as much as possible. As time went by, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the wound on his back didn't hurt at all. It's okay, Feng Jiu said, taking back his hand and exhaling softly. Wang Yu heard the sound and turned around. As soon as he moved, he didn't feel the pain of the wound on his back. He was stunned and touched his back, only to find that the wound on his back seemed to be healed. What's this? My master helped you heal your injuries. Are you still not happy? Du Fan glanced at him and said, Why haven't you put on your clothes yet? Therefore, Wang Yu quickly came to her senses and quickly took out a new set of clothes to put on. While suppressing the doubts and shock in her heart, she bowed to Feng Nine and said, Thank you, Ghost Doctor. Feng Jiwei nodded before looking at Du Fan and the others. She said, Lung Shuang and I have been searching in this area for the past few days. However, other than that day when I saw the nine-tailed fox, I haven't seen it again. However, I'm certain that it's still here. I just don't know where it has hidden itself. That's why I asked you to come over to tell you to search in different areas from today onwards. Don't miss any place where the nine-tailed fox might appear. Well, Master, you divide the area, Lung Hua said and took out a map. So, they found a place to sit down. Feng Jiu drew the area and asked them to search. Finally, he said, If you find a trace of the nine-tailed fox, don't disturb it. Inform me at once and tell me where the nine-tailed fox is found. Yes, they answered and then left in different teams. Feng Jiu and Lung Shuang searched in 2 areas respectively, and Du Fan led Yi Fei and Wang Yu to another area. At this time, none of them knew how long they would have to search in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest. The nine-tailed fox seemed to know that Feng Jiu and others were looking for it, so it hid well and didn't show up easily. The days passed while they were searching and hiding. Half a year later, in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest, early in the morning, a bolt of lightning struck down, shaking the entire sky. After the first bolt of lightning struck down, the second bolt of lightning also struck down. Chapter 42:36. Boom! When the third heavenly thunder gathered a strong airflow and struck down, the defensive bounded domain around Fengjiu was broken. The heavenly thunder fell on her body. At that moment, she ran the spiritual power in her hands. The vitality of the surrounding trees and the spiritual qi in the Cyan Demon Forest all flowed toward her and was absorbed into her body. As she withdrew her aura, the aura in the surrounding air gradually returned to normal. She exhaled softly and opened her eyes. Du Fan, Lung Shuang, and Yi Fei saw this and immediately stepped forward. Master! Wang Yu came to her senses and quickly followed them. Congratulations, Master. Your strength has finally recovered to the divine king level. Du Fan congratulated her with a smile. He was very happy. Since that battle, Master's strength had regressed. Now, she finally broke through again and her strength returned to the divine king level. Congratulations, Master. Lung Shuang and Yi Fei also said, Congratulations, Dr. Ghost. Wang Yu also congratulated her. In the past 6 months, he had followed them. Although his strength had not improved as much as Yi Fei's, it was still much faster than before. It could be said that whether it was his strength or his combat strength, they had all improved as he had expected. This also proved that he had made the right choice to stay here with them. After a while, Fengjiu stood up. She looked into the depths of the forest and asked, Have you found anything these days? They were silent and shook their heads. No, there's still no news. They had been here for 8 to 9 months, but up until now, other than the time when their master met the nine-tailed spirit fox, no one else had seen it. Hearing this, Fengjiu frowned slightly. She looked into the depths of the forest, and no one knew what she was thinking. Master, we have searched everywhere. In the past 6 months, we have almost searched the areas you assigned us twice, but we still haven't found the nine-tailed fox. Could it have escaped to another place? Du Fan asked, We can't keep looking like this. Let me think about it. She turned around and walked towards the water source alone. When she came to the water source, she scooped up a handful of water and washed her face. The cool spring water gradually calmed her mind. She took off her boots and soaked her feet in the water. She watched her jade-white feet paddle in the water and watched as the spring water flowed down through the cracks between the rocks. She sat there for more than half a day. It was not until noon, when Lung Shuang came to her with food, that she came back to her senses. The forest was so big, and there were only a few of them. It was easier said than done to find the nine-tailed spirit fox. Even if the nine-tailed spiritual fox was in the area that they had marked out, if they were not careful, the nine-tailed spiritual fox would pass by them. If they continued to search like this, they would not be able to find it even after a few years. She followed Lung Shuang to the bonfire and lowered her head to think. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind. She stopped in her tracks, and her eyes lit up. Why didn't I think of it? She slapped her forehead, and a big smile appeared on her face. She quickly walked forward. Lung Shuang saw this and asked, "Master, what did you think of?" Chapter 42:37. She came to the fire and sat down. Looking at the meat they were roasting on the fire, she took a small knife and cut a piece, saying, "Eat first. I'll tell you after you've eaten." Hearing this, the few people who wanted to ask looked at each other and did not speak again. They ate the roasted meat first. After filling their stomachs, Fengjiu asked with a smile, "Why do you think we haven't found the nine-tailed fox spirit even after we've divided the area?" The few of them looked at each other, saying, "We only have a few people, and the nine-tailed fox spirit is not hidden very well." That's right. If we want to search for it in this endless forest, it's undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Since that's the case, why don't we get the beast to help us? Her eyes were full of smiles, saying, "We don't know where the nine-tailed fox spirit is hiding, but the beasts in the depths of this forest know. As long as we start with them, we should be able to get news of the nine-tailed fox spirit very quickly." Hearing this, Du Fan asked, "But how do we get the beast to help us? We've been here for more than half a year, and the beasts here have all run away when they see us. They don't even dare to meet us. Even if we want to roast meat to eat, we have to put in a lot of effort to catch a beast. Because they have been searching in this area, it could be said that the beasts in this area had already treated them as beasts with their tails between their legs. Wherever they appeared, there would be no beasts around." Fengjiu looked at Du Fan, saying, "Find the strongest beast in this area, and let it give the order to search. I remember that there's a divine beast here. You guys find it." Hearing this, the few of them looked at each other, and finally answered, "Yes." They roughly knew what she meant, so they split into several groups and quickly went in different directions. Finding the nine-tailed fox spirit was more difficult, but finding a divine beast in the depths of this forest was extremely easy. After a day, Du Fan and the others tied up a divine beast in front of Fengjiu. "Master, we found a divine beast. Do you think this one will do?" Du Fan said as he looked at the tied-up tiger beast. Fengjiu stepped forward and waved his hand, indicating for them to retreat to the side. Then, he came to the side of the tiger beast. The divine beast was already gigantic, and with the addition of the tiger, it could be said that if it were to collide, no one would be able to block the force. He gently patted the tiger beast's head and said, "I'll give you two choices. 1. Help me find the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox, and I'll let you go. I'll also give you a pill to increase your strength and let you enter the peak of the divine beast stage. 2. I'll kill you." When the tiger beast heard this, its eyes widened. "You're going too far. You don't have a choice." It had listened carefully, but it didn't expect Fengjiu to mean this. "How is it? Do you want to do it or not?" Fengjiu asked, his voice cold. He played with the dagger that he had just taken out, and the threat was very obvious. "Don't waste your time. Even if you find the nine-tailed spirit fox, it's not easy to deal with," the tiger beast said, and glared at Fengjiu. "Furthermore, I don't know where it's hiding. Even if it knew, it wouldn't dare to say it. Is that so?" Chapter 42:38. This human possessed an ancient aura. It could be said that from the day she came to the depths of the azure demonic forest, the tiger knew about it. It was precisely because it knew that it had been hiding far away, but it did not expect to be caught. It lowered its head and asked, "You already have an ancient divine beast, so why do you want to catch the nine-tailed spiritual fox?" It was not that this human did not have a contracted beast. On the contrary, she had more than one contracted beast, and they were all very powerful. Since that was the case, why did she spend half a year looking for the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox? Fengjiu glanced at it indifferently and said, "This is not something you should care about." She stretched out her hand and patted its head, saying, "You should think about it. If I catch it, your strength will increase by another level. Then you will be the most powerful existence in the azure demonic forest. Isn't that good? The tiger beast lowered its head as it listened. It was naturally aware of this point, but it was still worried. If the nine-tailed spirit fox knew about this, it was afraid that it would die miserably. After all, its strength was far inferior to its own. However, the temptation was so great. How is it? Fengjiu asked with a trace of impatience in her voice. If not for the fact that the tiger beast had lived here for a long time and had a certain amount of power, she would not have looked for it. Instead, she would have asked the cloud-swallowing beast and Lao Bai to search for it. However, even though the cloud-swallowing beast was powerful, they were not local tyrants. All right, I promise you. Hurry up and untie me so that I can go back and ask the other beast to help find it. As the tiger beast spoke, it twisted its body and tugged at the immortal binding rope on its body. Fengjiu waved her hand and kept the immortal binding rope. The tiger beast stretched its back and looked at Fengjiu, saying, "We are only responsible for finding the places where it has appeared and where it is hiding. Once we find it, we will secretly tell you. As for catching it, you have to do it yourself. We beasts will not interfere." Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled. "All right, that's it. I don't expect you to help me catch it. Once you find it, don't disturb it. Just tell me the location." Thus, the man and beast decided. Seeing that the tiger beast had left, Yi Fei asked, "Master, aren't you worried that it won't come back? What if it lies to us?" "It won't, because tigers are the kings of the mountains." Now that it was suppressed by the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox, it naturally would not miss such an opportunity. Fengjiu chuckled and looked away, saying, "All right, let's get ready." Next, they rested and adjusted their bodies. Hey! On the other side, in a hidden cave, the nine-tailed spiritual fox had just come out of the cave when it saw the beasts not far away. It felt strange, but did not think much of it, and leaped into the depths of the forest. The human in red robes wanted to catch it. It was simply a fool's dream. Half a year had passed, and it was still safe and sound. Those humans did not know where it was hiding. Chapter 42:39. After the tiger beast received the news, it went to the place where Fengjiu and the rest were to look for them. "I found the ancient mythical beast. It's in an underground cave 2 mountains away from here," the tiger beast said as it stared at Fengjiu. "You said you would give me the advancement pill." Fengjiu was overjoyed when she heard this. She stood up and said, "Lead the way. We'll talk when we find it." The tiger beast hesitated for a moment, but finally decided to lead them there. It said unhappily, "Follow me." As it said that, it leaped forward. "Let's go," Fengjiu said to the few people beside her, and followed it. The group followed the tiger beast into the depths of the forest. After they crossed 2 mountains, the sky was already dark. The tiger beast, leading the way, stopped at this moment. "I won't go ahead. You guys go ahead and find it yourselves." Even though it was a mythical beast, it was still afraid of the ancient mythical beast. Leading them here was already the limit. If the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox knew that it was the tiger beast that led them here, thinking of this, it couldn't help but shudder and step back. Fengjiu glanced at it and said to Du Fan, "Bring them to the surroundings and set up a formation. Be quiet and don't alarm the spirit fox. I'll go ahead and take a look." As she said that, she restrained her aura and went ahead. The tiger beast wanted to stop her and asked her to give it the pill, but seeing her go ahead, it thought for a moment, swung its tail, snorted, and left. Actually, it was one thing to have the pill. With its mythical beast rank, if this ancient mythical beast wasn't here, it would still be able to do whatever it wanted in this forest. Fengjiu went forward and released her divine sense to search carefully until she found a hidden underground cave. The cave was only big enough for one person to squeeze in, but the space inside was huge. However, when she scanned the underground cave with her divine sense, she discovered that there was no trace of the ancient spirit fox. Therefore, she went to Du Fan and the others. "Don't set up the formation here. Go set it up over there. Also, after setting up the formation, hide your aura and don't run around. That ancient spirit fox isn't in the cave right now. It should be back soon." She instructed them to go to the other side. All right, they responded and followed Du Fan to the other side to set up the formation. When it came to setting up formations, apart from Fengjiu, Du Fan was the most proficient. The rest of them were only learning from him. Fengjiu looked around, and when his gaze landed on a tall tree, he jumped up and checked the surroundings. On the other side, the tiger beast had already left quietly. Under Du Fan's lead, the others had set up a formation around them. At this moment, Fengjiu, who was on the tree, transmitted his voice to them. That nine-tailed spirit fox is back. Quickly hide. Hearing her words, Du Fan quickly led the others to hide. He hid his aura and hid under the cover of the night. Fengjiu, who was on the tree, was dressed in red, but the cover of the pitch-black night formed a very good camouflage. She hid her aura and looked at the white figure that was shuttling through the forest in the dark night. She couldn't hide her excitement. After searching for so long, they had finally found the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. Chapter 4240. She felt that this nine-tailed spiritual fox was the most suitable one to be her precious daughter's natal contract beast. It was one thing to see it in the painting, but now she saw it with her own eyes. As it ran and jumped, its 9 snow-white tails swayed behind it. It was so ostentatious and beautiful. As the nine-tailed spirit fox got closer and closer, its footsteps gradually slowed down. From time to time, it would look around and sniff the surroundings. Seeing this, her eyes moved slightly. She quietly skimmed through the night and went to the back to block its escape route. Even if it really sensed something, she would force it into the range of the bounded domain. In this way, she would not have to worry about it escaping again. Perhaps the nine-tailed spirit fox had really sensed the presence of a human. It stopped its hooves and lowered its body to look in front of it. Its pair of blue eyes stared intently in front of it. However, it retreated step by step. After a few breaths, it suddenly turned around and ran away. Fengjiu didn't continue concealing herself when she saw this, and she directly flashed out from within the veil of night. At the same time, she flicked her sleeve, and the 2 cloud-devouring beasts and Senior White ran out from within the space to help obstruct the ancient nine-tailed fox. "You can't escape. Lie down obediently," Senior White shouted as he leaped up, transforming from horse into a white dragon as he charged forward. The 2 cloud-swallowing beasts growled. They did not go forward but did not retreat. They just guarded it tightly to prevent it from escaping. Fengjiu looked at the nine-tailed spiritual fox that turned around and looked at him while retreating. He could not help but smile and said, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. I just want you to be my daughter's contracted beast." Chi. The white fox exhaled 2 breaths. It stared at Fengjiu fiercely. It suddenly turned around and ran in the direction behind it. Seeing this, Fengjiu chased after it. It crashed into the tactical matrix and wanted to break out. However, it was bounced back by the tactical matrix. It jumped and landed steadily. It squeaked and stared at Du Fan and the others who came out from the darkness. Finally, it leaped into the underground cave. "Not good," Fengjiu exclaimed when he saw this, and quickly rushed forward. She didn't think that there was only one exit in this underground cave. Perhaps there were several exits inside. If they let it escape, they might never be able to catch it again. With a flick of her hand, she threw out a silver net towards the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. It was so fast that it could be said that it was completed in an instant. The nine-tailed spirit fox entered the underground cave half a step slower. However, when it wanted to rush to the entrance of the cave, it was covered by a silver net. The silver net shrunk and trapped the nine-tailed spirit fox inside. Roar! It howled like a puppy and curled up its body. Its sharp claws flashed as it tried to tear the silver net apart, but it couldn't. Fengjiu walked forward quickly and couldn't help but smile. "It seems that it's still a cub. We should be glad that it's only a cub. If it was an adult, ancient nine-tailed spirit fox, it wouldn't be so easy to catch it." Du Fan and the others quickly came forward. Seeing the snow-white nine-tailed spirit fox struggling in the silver net, they couldn't help but smile happily. After such a long time, they finally caught the ancient spiritual fox. Chapter 4241. Congratulations, Master. Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei also said. This time, the little master's contract beast was found. Ghost Doctor, is this ancient spiritual fox still a cub? Wang Yu asked, looking at the little white fox lying on the ground and staring at them after struggling to no avail. Looking at it from such a close distance, it was really beautiful. Whether it was the eyes, the fur, or the nine tails, they were all so beautiful that people could not help but want to go up and touch it. It's still a cub, so it's not very powerful and can't transform into a human shape. However, it should be able to speak human language. Fengjiu said, squatting down to look at the snow fox, which was curled up in the silver net, and said with a smile, I'll find you a master. In this way, you can grow up with her. Chi. The nine-tailed fox on the ground showed its teeth and made a chi-chi sound, as if it was showing its resistance. It stared at Fengjiu and the others, and the next moment, its whole body suddenly emitted a snow-white light. This light was so dazzling that they could not help but close their eyes or block it with their hands. However, at that moment, Fengjiu, Du Fan, and the others felt the world in front of them spin. It was as if they had been sucked into some place, and they lost consciousness in an instant. When the light dissipated, not only had Fengjiu and the others disappeared, even Senior White, Tun Yun, and the others had disappeared. Even the ancient nine-tailed fox that was trapped by the silver net had disappeared as well. The vast area was completely empty, and it was as if they had never appeared at all. In the pitch-black forest, a gust of wind blew past, causing leaves to fall from the trees and scatter all around the area. A few hundred meters away from here, in the grass, the tiger beast was lying there with its eyes wide open. It watched as Fengjiu and the rest disappeared from where they were, along with the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox that had been captured when the first ray of sunlight shone on the ground in the early morning. Fengjiu slowly opened his eyes. What came in his eyes was a sky that looked like burning clouds. Her chaotic thoughts cleared up in an instant. She leaped up and looked at the unconscious Du Fan and the rest lying around her, as well as the nine-tailed Arctic fox in the silver net. She remembered that the moment the light flashed, her whole body seemed to be sucked into some place. Almost instinctively, she put her contract beasts into the space. Then, everything went black and she didn't know anything. Now, she'd scanned the area with her divine sense and confirmed that Senior White and Tunyon were within the space, so she was at ease. He got up and went to Lung Shuang's side to check on her. Then, he took out a bottle of medicine and placed it under her nose for her to smell. Not long after, she slowly woke up. Master? Well, it's good that you're awake. Wake him up too. She handed the medicine to Lung Shuang and walked towards the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox that was still lying motionless on the ground. Get up. She kicked lightly with her foot, and the nine-tailed spirit fox moved a little. In the next moment, it wanted to jump up vigilantly, but it was caught in the silver net and could only roll back to the ground. It's good that you're awake. Let me ask you, where did you take us? Fengjiu asked, her gaze falling on the nine-tailed spirit fox. She remembered that this ancient nine-tailed spirit fox had a hidden ability, which was to travel through time and space into any place in an instant. Chapter 42:42. This was no longer the Cyan Demon Forest. Moreover, the spiritual aura in the air here was extremely weak and the weather was extremely hot. Looking around, the ground was dry and cracked. Not to mention any trees, weeds, and forests. There was not a single living creature other than them. The nine-tailed fox turned its blue eyes and looked at the surrounding environment, but it did not speak. Instead, it closed its eyes like an angry child and did not want to talk to Fengjiu at all. Master, where are we? Du Fan came over, rubbed his neck, and brushed the mud and dust off his body. He looked around with a surprised face. I don't know where we are. This fox doesn't speak at all. Fengjiu said, frowning slightly. He did not bother to ask the nine-tailed fox anymore. Instead, he looked around and said, let's find someone to ask about this place. Okay. Everyone answered and stood around. Fengjiu glanced at the nine-tailed fox. He flicked his sleeve and put it into the space. Then he said to them, let's go. Let's go ahead and have a look. Then he stepped forward. Fengjiu walked fast in the front, and the people behind him also followed quickly. Du Fan and the others knew that she had a space, but when Wang Yu saw that she could put the nine-tailed fox into the space without a contract, she was slightly surprised. However, she did not ask much and just thought that she should have some powerful space treasure. The current situation made him have no other thoughts. He saw that the people in front of him walked fast, so he also followed them. However, the road seemed to have no end. There was no end to it, and the weather was getting hotter and hotter. Even though they were all cultivators at this time, they couldn't help but sweat all over their clothes. They were sweating profusely from the heat. "Master, the weather here seems to be a bit wrong. It shouldn't be so hot," Du Fan said and raised his sleeve to wipe the sweat on his forehead. Feng Jiu replied, "Something is definitely not right. The main thing is that we don't even know where we are." She stopped walking and said to them, "Take a break and drink some water." Everyone stopped to rest. After drinking some water, to calm themselves down, they continued to walk. Seeing that there was no sign of them, Feng Jiu directly flew forward on his glazed feather. The few people behind him also took out their magic tools and flew forward. However, what they didn't expect was that as time passed, they calculated that it should be sunset, but there was no sign of the sun setting in the sky. The weather was still so hot, and the sky was still as hot as noon. It should be evening now. The sun should be setting. As Lung Shuang spoke, he looked at the sun in the sky and said, "That sun doesn't seem to move. It just hangs there. This place is really strange." Du Fan said, "Because of the heat in the air, when they looked at the distant place, the heat in the air was slightly distorted and a city loomed." "Master, there seems to be a city in front," Du Fan said and looked ahead. Then he sped up and went forward. Chapter 42-43. "Master, why does it seem like there's no end here? And there's no one here?" Yi Fei said, swallowing his saliva and looking up. He only felt that the sun was giving him a headache. They had been exposed to the sun for a day, walking in front and flying in the back. But even so, after a long time, their bodies cannot bear it. Moreover, it should be night, but the sun and moon had not yet risen. This kind of psychological torture was even more torturous. I don't know what's going on either. We can only continue to move forward and see if there's an oasis. Feng Jiu said, looking ahead. Flying in this desert. Looking up, there was only sand, as if there was no end to this place, making people gradually feel anxious. "Master, was the fantasy city we saw earlier a mirage?" Du Fan asked, looking at Feng Jiu beside him. The illusory city that seemed to be right in front of them had long disappeared as they approached it. However, the scene looked very real, just like the mirages that he had seen in the books before. "That's right," Feng Jiu replied, saying that mirage usually appears in the extremely hot desert or on the surface of the sea, but generally, this scene means that this place exists. Perhaps it's not far from us, or perhaps it's very far from us. She said slowly, looking at the bright sun in the sky, saying, "We've been walking for a day and a night, but this place still looks like it's daytime, which reminds me of a place." "What place?" Du Fan asked. "The nightless heaven," Feng Jiu said slowly, frowning slightly, saying, "According to ancient records in the 3,000 worlds, there's a place called the nightless heaven. Here there's no night, only day, and the sun never sets in the west, but the moon still rises. However, under the sunlight, even if the moon appears, very few people can see it. Ancient records say that the nightless heaven lacks spiritual power, and the weather is hot all year round. The people here live in an abyss of suffering, but I didn't expect that we would come here. This ancient nine-tailed spirit fox's ability is not small. It can actually let us travel through the world to another place. If that's the case, it shouldn't be difficult for it to send us back, right?" Du Fan asked, looking at Feng Jiu. Feng Jiu smiled bitterly, saying, "You don't know this. This ancient nine-tailed spirit fox is still a cub. Now, it used up its remaining power to send us here. I guess, even if we want to go back now, it can't. Even though it was an ancient mythical beast, its cub's strength was still limited. It would not be able to do something as difficult as shuttling through space in a short period of time. Then we can't go back?" Yi Fei couldn't help but ask. That won't be the case. Feng Jiu smiled, saying, my strength has recovered, and I'm the master of this world. It won't be difficult for me to leave this place, but it will be a bit troublesome. However, once the nine-tailed spirit fox recovers, it can take us away. The prerequisite is that it is willing to take us back. Chapter 42-44. They kept moving forward in the desert. Feng Jiu had been counting the time. After about 4 days and 3 nights of walking and stopping, they finally saw a city on the flying sword. Master, look, it's the city we saw a few days ago, Yi Fei said happily. He had been exposed to the sun for the past few days, and there was nothing to hide from the sun. His entire body was tanned. Not only her, but Wang Yu was also much darker. Only Feng Jiu, Du Fan, and Lung Shuang looked the same as before. Not for any other reason, but simply because the 3 of them had higher cultivations. The circulation of their spiritual energies naturally formed a protective layer around their bodies. Finally, we found a place to rest. It's been a tough journey. Du Fan sighed with a smile on his face. I just want to have a good sleep now. Wang Yu said. Her lips were a little chapped. Even if she didn't lack water, it was too much for her to bear in the sun. Let's find a place to have a good rest first. We'll talk about the rest later. As Feng Jiu spoke, she sped up on her rainbow-glazed feather until she reached the city gate. Only then did she put away her feather and land on the ground. Sleepless City. Feng Jiu looked at the 3 words on the city gate and read it softly. Why is the city gate closed? And there's no one here? Lung Shuang looked around. The city gate was closed, and no one could be seen. It should be night now. Du Fan said. He walked forward and patted the city gate. Is there anyone here? Open the city gate. However, there was only silence in response. He took a step back and looked at the city wall. He turned back to Feng Jiu and said, Master, there seems to be a bounded domain in the city. If there was no bounded domain, they could directly enter from the city wall. Well, it's a defensive bounded domain. Feng Jiu looked up and said, let's go to the wall and wait. There's no sun over there, so it'll be cooler. Then he walked toward the wall. Seeing this, they followed him to the wall to rest. Sitting by the wall, they didn't get any sunlight. Now that they were sitting down, it was a little cooler. They took out water from the space and drank it. After resting for a while, they closed their eyes and rested against the wall. After an unknown period of time, the city gates opened and a group of about 100 people walked out. When they saw Feng Jiu and the others in the corner, they were all surprised. Why are there so many foreigners here? They look really good. Their cultivations seem to be very strong. The moment the city gate opened, Feng Jiu and the others opened their eyes. When they saw the people in white, their eyes flashed, and a trace of surprise flashed across their eyes. Because those people were talking, the 2 middle-aged men in the lead shouted in a deep voice, All right, quiet down. As they spoke, the 2 middle-aged men looked at each other and walked towards Feng Jiu's group. They cupped their hands and asked, May I ask where you are from? And why are you resting under the city wall? Feng Jiu stood up and raised his hand to brush off the dust on his clothes. He slowly said, We came from afar and passed by this place. We wanted to find a place to rest, but the city gates weren't open, so we rested here. Chapter 42-45. The middle-aged man paused for a moment and said, You are a guest. Since you have arrived at the nightless city, please follow me to see our city lord. Thank you for your trouble. Feng Jiu replied with a bow and followed him into the city. Seeing that the group was led by the middle-aged man to the front left, Feng Jiu's heart moved slightly. He looked at the middle-aged man who was leading the way and said, My name is Feng Jiu. How should I address you? My name is Gumayan. I am almost 264 years old this year. Miss Feng can just call me Elder Yin. The middle-aged man said with a loud voice and steady footsteps. He chatted with Feng Jiu with a smile on his face. It has been many years since outsiders have come to our nightless city. You are a really rare guest to come here. Feng Jiu chatted with him while watching some people in the city put away the black cloth outside the house. He asked, Why are the houses surrounded by black cloth in this city? Is it to block the sun? That's right. We are the Nightless Club here. There is no night in this nightless city. If we often face the sun, no one can stand it. Therefore, we calculate the time. Every time it is time to rest at night, the people in our city will use black cloth to block the sun. This way, we can achieve the effect of night. Gumayan smiled and said, wearing clothes with heavy colors like you will absorb the sun. If you wear for a long time, it will be very hot. The people in our city all like to wear white clothes. White clothes are cooler than other colors. Fengjiu nodded and asked again, then what are those people who just left the city doing? We didn't see any oases or other towns on the way here. Where are they going? As I said earlier, this is a lone city. This is the only city within hundreds of miles. Therefore, other than this city, you won't be able to see any other cities. As for the team that left the city, it was because they were looking for a water source. The water source in our city is getting smaller and smaller, so they can only look for a new source of water. As he spoke, he shook his head and sighed. But it's not easy to find a new water source. Just like what Miss Feng said earlier, this place is barren. There's nothing here, and water is even rarer and more precious. Fengjiu chatted with him all the way and roughly understood the situation. When they arrived at the city lord's residence, they were invited to sit in the hall, and the middle-aged man left first. Not long after, an old man in a white robe walked in. The middle-aged man followed behind him and introduced Fengjiu to him. Then he said to Fengjiu, this is the city lord of our nightless city. When the old man came in, Fengjiu and the others sized him up without batting an eyelid. Similarly, the old man sized up Fengjiu and the others without batting an eyelid. Looking at Fengjiu and the others, the more the old man looked, the more shocked he became. He also understood why these people from other places were brought to him. I've already heard about you from Elder Yin. However, you shouldn't be passing by here, right? The old man walked in with a smile and sat down at the main seat. He looked at Fengjiu and the others. Chapter 42-46. Every place in the Nightless Club was like this, not just here. Therefore, the words she asked before naturally exposed this point. The city lord, or even the person called Elder Yin, knew that they did not come from any place in the Nightless Club, but the so-called outsiders from other worlds. Thinking of this, the smile on her face deepened. Where did you come from? The city lord asked, and his eyes fell on Fengjiu. After looking at her for a while, he noticed that the woman in red was the master of these people. We were sent here by the spatial transmission array in the Azure Demon Forest, Fengjiu said, but did not mention the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. For other worlds, the old man just asked. Even if she said it, he might not know. Therefore, he just nodded and said, it's been a long time since immortal cultivators from other realms have come to our place. I see that you are all very strong, and there are many more people here than us. I think that other realms should be a good place to cultivate. Fengjiu smiled, glanced at Du Fan and the others, and said, well, the spirit of the world where we are is richer than here. However, the spirit here is not rich. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level. The city lord and a middle-aged man were both nascent soul stage cultivators. The former was at the peak, and the latter should have just entered the nascent soul stage not long ago. It was not easy to cultivate to this level in this place where there was not much spirit power. Since you came here by accident, then before you leave, stay here with me first. If you want to go to the city to look around, this old man can accompany you. He looked at Fengjiu and the others. He did not know how high their strength was, but at least he knew that most of their strength was above him. Then we'll bother you. Fengjiu did not refuse and said, we haven't slept for a few days all the way here. We have to trouble the city lord to prepare a room for us. We want to rest. This is no problem. He called out, let the butler go down to prepare, and then let someone take them down. After watching them leave with the butler, the old man stood up with his hands clasped behind his back and looked at them with a pensive expression. Seeing this, Gumayan said, City Lord, if cultivators from other places can come here, can't we go to other places too? Sigh, it's easier said than done. The old man sighed and said, I know what you mean, but the world we live in is a place where there is no night all year round. There's a lack of spiritual qi, and the highest cultivation is only at the peak of the Yuanying stage. Many cultivators have reached the peak of the Yuanying stage and died. Even if some wanted to break through to the flying immortal stage, I have never heard of anyone succeeding. The cultivators here are destined to be like this. Elder Yin said anxiously, but, City Lord, look at Miss Feng and the others. They're all so young, yet their cultivations aren't inferior to ours. Since they can come here, why can't we take a gamble? If we can also go to the place where they are, perhaps our cultivation will be able to reach a higher level. Every world has its own people. This is the will of the heavens. Who can win against the heavens? The old man shook his head and sighed before walking out. Chapter 42-47. They slept for 2 days and 2 nights. For the past few days, they had been exposed to the scorching sun. Now that they were in such a cool place, they could sleep peacefully on the bed. Naturally, they slept until they woke up before leaving the room. Knowing that they had not left the room, the city lord instructed the servants not to disturb them. Until 2 days later, when Feng Jiao and the rest left the room, the city lord ordered the servants to prepare food for them. Master, do you want to walk around the city today? Du Fan asked, his gaze falling on Feng Jiao. Since we have nothing to do, it's good to take a look. Feng Jiao said. Seeing that they had eaten their fill, he said, let's go to the front and find Elder Yin. As he said that, he walked out. The city lord and Elder Yin were talking as they walked towards the place where they lived. When they met them on the way, the two of them smiled and went up to greet them. Miss Feng, how was the food? The city lord asked with a smile. The food was very good. We were just full, so we wanted to walk around the city. Feng Jiao said with a smile. That's great. We'll go with you. He smiled and gestured to them. Please. Thus, Feng Jiao and the rest followed the two of them out of the city lord's residence and walked into the city. City Lord. City Lord. Why did the city lord come out today? Perhaps it was because the people in the city were familiar with the city lord. He accompanied them around the city and introduced them to the scenery of the city. Many people smiled and greeted him. Feng Jiao and the others were unfamiliar faces, not only because they were outstanding and eye-catching, but also because they were not wearing the same white clothes as the people here. Therefore, one could tell at a glance that they were from other places. They were curious about the people from other places and sized them up. However, because the city lord and Elder Yin were accompanying them, they did not dare to be too presumptuous. Feng Jiao looked around and said with a smile, the city lord must be a rare and good city lord to be loved by the people here. Only those who served the people could win the hearts of the people. Although he was the city lord, he did not put on any airs. It could be seen that the people here were very supportive of him. I'm just doing something for the citizens. I'm not a good city lord. The city lord modestly waved his hand and smiled. Elder Yin said, Miss Feng, you might not know this, but our nightless city is an isolated city. It's not easy to get goods, especially this kind of black cloth. It's even harder to find. The city lord formed a team to go out of the city every month and walk hundreds of miles to other cities to buy goods and trade. He even taught the people in the city to dye their own black cloth to block the sun. The city lord has done a lot for us, and the people in the city respect him very much. Feng Jiao was slightly surprised. Oh, does this place leave the city once a month? Yes, it's a long journey. It takes a few days to come and go. The city lord said to Feng Jiao, Miss Feng, let's go to the front and have a cup of tea. Okay. Feng Jiao responded and walked with them to the tea stall not far in front. There was a black net above the city to block the heat. The city was much cooler than outside the city. In addition, they had been here for a few days and gradually adapted to the heat here. Sitting at the tea stall, Feng Jiao asked, City Lord, why does the sun of the Nightless Club not set in the west? Do you know the reason? Chapter 42-48. The city lord took a sip of tea, paused for a moment, and said, Tens of thousands of years ago, our world also had a master. However, according to legend, after the war with another monarch, the monarch of our world fell, and our world became a land without a master. That monarch did not recover this world, but set up a curse to let the people of our world live in the abyss of suffering for generations. Speaking of this, he sighed softly. This is the hatred between the two monarchs, but it has affected the innocent us. From then on, There is no night in our world, no starry sky. For a long time, the weather here has been hot, and the water source is getting less and less. He looked at the teacup in his hand, looked at the tea in the cup, and said, maybe in less than a few hundred years, the people of our world will all die and become a land of death. Feng Jiu was silent, and she did not expect it to be such a reason. However, was it cursed by the monarch of the world? It could make the sun never set in the west. This made her somewhat puzzled. After all, even if the monarch of the world was a monarch, it was impossible to make the sun never set because of a curse, as he said. As far as I know, even the monarch of the world can't interfere with the operation of the sun, the moon, and the stars, right? Du Fan's voice came from the table next to her. Yes, therefore, some powerhouses of a nightless club have discussed this problem, but there has been no answer. Here, for tens of thousands of years, the highest cultivation is the peak Yuanying stage cultivator. Perhaps it is because the spiritual power of this world is lacking, or it is because of other reasons there has never been a cultivator above the Yuanying stage. The city lord sighed softly and said, our strength is limited. Even if we want to break this curse, we can't start. Moreover, you came from other worlds, so you don't know that there's a Qilin mountain here. It is said that there's an ancient Qilin beast trapped there. That Qilin beast was the contract beast of the monarch of our world tens of thousands of years ago. Every once in a while, the powerhouses of the peak Yuanying stage will form a team to go to the Qilin mountain to find the Qilin beast, but they have been unable to find the location of the Qilin beast. Listening to this, Feng Jiu's heart moved slightly, and there was a strange color in her eyes. Ancient Qilin beast? There was actually an ancient Qilin beast in this place. She narrowed her eyes and took a sip of tea, suppressing the excitement in her heart. At first, she thought that little Yu Er's contracted beast had been found, but she didn't know where to find little Mu Chen's contracted beast. She didn't expect that an ancient Qilin beast would be trapped in this place. Du Fan and the others were also slightly surprised. They looked at each other and then at Feng Jiu. They saw that she was holding a teacup and seemed to be thinking about something. They remained silent and did not disturb her. How far is the Qilin mountain from here? Feng Jiu put down his teacup and looked up at the city lord. Hearing this, the city lord was slightly stunned. He looked at Feng Jiu and said, it's at least 7 to 8 days' journey from here, and that's the speed of sword flight. As he spoke, he continued, a few days ago, I received an invitation from several nascent soul cultivators to go to the Qilin mountain to search for the ancient Qilin. Since you return empty-handed every year, why do you still want to go every year? Yi Fei asked curiously. Chapter 42-49. He looked at them and said, many cultivators have fallen in the Yuanying realm, and we just want to find a way to survive before that. Maybe if we find the ancient Qilin beast, we can also find a way to break the curse. Yi Fei seemed to understand, but didn't ask again. When did you guys agree to go to the Qilin mountain? We also want to go with you. Feng Jiu said, looking at the city lord. After hearing her words, the city lord smiled. Actually, even if Miss Feng didn't say it, I also wanted to invite you guys to go together. I can see that your cultivation is above ours. Maybe if you guys go together, you can find the Qilin beast. Feng Jiu smiled and didn't say anything. After I arrange the things in the city, it will take about 2 or 3 days. We can set off to meet the others. This time, the team in the city is going out of the city, so we could go together. The city lord looked at Feng Jiu and the others and said with a smile, have a good rest these few days and recover your energy. Thus, they made a decision. After a few days, they would go out of the city to the Qilin mountain. This was an unexpected surprise for Feng Jiu and the others. No one expected that there would be a trapped ancient Qilin beast. After returning to the city lord's mansion, Du Fan and the others went to Feng Jiu's courtyard. Master, it seems that the unseen world has already planned this. The ancient Qilin beast has disappeared for tens of thousands of years, but we didn't expect to meet it this time. Du Fan couldn't hide the joy in his voice. He was happy that the little master Mu Chen's contract beast was found. Ever since he knew that his 2 little masters were doomed, he had been worried. Now, the ancient nine-tailed fox was in his master's space, and now he knew that the ancient Qilin beast was trapped in this world. He believed that the two little masters would be able to turn misfortune into blessing and grow up safely. I haven't seen it yet. After all, rumors are just rumors. Seeing is believing. Fengjiu said, looking at the others, these 2 days, you should prepare well. In addition, Du Fan, there's a place to hide in the city lord's mansion. You go and tell the city lord to check the information about the curse. Yes, Du Fan said, I'll go now. Then he turned and walked out. Feng Nan looked at Wang Yu and said, Wang Yu, you are not my subordinate. You shouldn't have been with me for so long. Now you have been with me for more than half a year. I believe you have seen a lot of things, but I want to remind you that there are some things that you should forget after you know them. There are some words that you'd better not say after you hear them. Hearing this, Wang Yu's heart shuddered, and she immediately said, Don't worry, ghost doctor. Wang Yu, will never say anything more. Then, as if he was afraid that she would be worried, he pointed to the sky and swore, Wang Yu, swear that I will never inquire about things that I shouldn't know. I will never say anything that I shouldn't say. If I dare to talk nonsense, I will be struck by thunder. As soon as the voice fell, the spiritual power spread out. There was a sound of thunder in the sky, and then it disappeared. Okay, you can leave. Fengjiu motioned him to leave first. Yes, Wang Yu responded. Then she saluted and turned away. Chapter 4250. After Wang Yu left, Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei looked at each other and walked to Fengjiu's side. Master, are you worried about him? Lung Shuang asked. Fengjiu smiled and said, That's not it. He's a good person. It's just that he's not like you guys, but he's been by my side and knows so many things. I have to remind him a thing or two, lest he doesn't know his limits in the future. She looked at them and said, I don't know when I will be back. You go and prepare. Take all the things you need. Yes, they answered and then turned to prepare. After they left, Fengjiu got up and went back to the wing room. He stretched out his hand to set up a bounded domain and then flashed into the space. In the space, the ancient white fox was still trapped in the silver net. Lao Bai and the cloud-swallowing divine beast surrounded it and stared at it. This made it seem much more peaceful. In fact, as an ancient mythical beast, the nine-tailed fox was not afraid of white and the cloud-swallowing beast. However, the former was a mutated beast, while the latter was a super-mythical beast, and their strength was not low. In addition, the nine-tailed fox was only in its infancy, and it was in their territory. Naturally, the situation was different. The nine-tailed fox had been pretending to be dead these days. It could not escape, so it could only close its eyes and ignore them. However, since it entered the space, it still secretly looked at it several times out of curiosity. It was surprised by the self-contained world, and even more surprised by the pure spiritual power, the precious medicine fields, the treasures piled up in the mountains, the spiritual spring, and the ancient golden lotus. It had never seen such a place before. How could a human have such a blessed place? Master, seeing her come in, several contract beasts came to her with joy. Fengjiu patted their heads and walked forward to the nine-tailed fox. He squatted down and looked at it lying on the ground. You have so many contract beasts. Why do you still catch me? Let me go. The nine-tailed fox shouted and bared its teeth at Fengjiu. I spent so much effort to catch you. Do you think I will let you go? Fengjiu smiled and reached out to play with the nine-tailed fox's tail. He said, You look very cute, but your temper is not very good. Don't touch my tail. The nine-tailed fox swept its tail and withdrew it. Its blue eyes stared at Fengjiu angrily. Fengjiu took back his hands and crossed them. He squatted on the ground and looked at the nine-tailed fox. He said, You see, I have so many contract beasts, and I have an ancient mythical beast, Fire Phoenix. You should have felt the ancient aura on me. So, I don't want you to be my contract beast. I want you to be my daughter's contract. Contract. I catch. You. She stretched out her hand and hung the nine-tailed fox with the silver net. She stood up and said, Therefore, you have to temper your temper. After all, my daughter is still young. If you act like this, you will scare her. I don't want to be a contract beast for a human. I will not form a contract with a human. Don't think you can make me submit. The nine-tailed fox shouted angrily. It struggled, but it could not do anything to Fengjiu. Chapter 42:51. Hearing this, the little fox widened its eyes in shock. I am an ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. I'm not an ordinary fox. Fengjiu's eyes flashed. She glanced at it and said coldly, "If you weren't an ancient nine-tailed fox spirit, do you think you would have survived until now?" The little fox saw the cold light in her eyes and her threatening words. For a moment, its blue eyes were filled with grievance and fear. It said in a trembling voice, You humans are really bad. Since you know that, you'd better control your temper. Otherwise, you're going to suffer." As Fengjiu spoke, she glanced at it and said, "You are the contract beast that I prepared for my daughter, but I really don't feel at ease with your character. Now, I will take you with me and temper you. When I go back in the future, I will cancel the contract with you and let you re-establish a live contract with my daughter." Before the little fox could object, she made an ancient seal with her hands and softly chanted the contract language. Spiritual energy surged, and ancient contract runes appeared under the feet of the human and beast. As the runes under Fengjiu's feet disappeared, they turned into a ray of light and entered the little fox's forehead to complete the contract. The little fox wanted to resist, but its spiritual energy was firmly suppressed. In the end, after the contract was completed, Fengjiu waved her hand and put away the silver net that trapped the little fox. She said, "You can move freely in here, but don't touch anything, especially those spiritual herbs and the golden lotus in the spirit spring. If you touch anything, be careful of your fox skin." Hearing this, the little fox shrank and lay on the ground, not daring to look at her. Now that it was contracted to her as a servant beast, as long as she wanted, it could not do anything even if she skinned it alive. Seeing that the threat was effective, Fengjiu's expression softened. She said, "Of course, if you are obedient, the benefits you will get will be much better than cultivating in the Cyan Demon Forest. Just look at the contracted beasts in my space, and you will know. None of them are weaker than you." The little fox looked at the two cloud-swallowing beasts, Lao Bai and the white tiger, then lowered its head in dejection. This human was a freak. Her space was also a freak. Even the contract beasts inside the space weren't ordinary. The contracted beasts looked at each other and thought to themselves, "Master is still the best. All right, now tell me, when will your teleportation ability recover?" Fengjiu asked. The little fox raised its head and looked at her with a pair of blue eyes. It asked, "How do you know I have the ability to travel through space?" After asking the question, a trace of annoyance appeared in its eyes. Wasn't it asking for nothing? How could they not know that he had brought them to this place? One of the hidden abilities of the ancient nine-tailed fox is to travel through space. Fengjiu glanced at it and said slowly, "When will it recover?" The little fox sprawled on the ground listlessly. Her eyes flashed as she whispered, "I don't know. I'm still in my infancy, and I'm not even sure of my own abilities. I don't know when I'll be able to recover." Chapter 42:52. After instructing Lao Bai and the others to keep an eye on it, Fengjiu flashed out of the space. In the room, she took out her communication jade and told Xinyuan Mose about what had happened. Then, she asked about the two children's current situation and waited for his reply. In the distant mansion, Xinyuan Mose held his communication jade and listened to Fengjiu talk about what had happened over there and the discovery of the ancient mythological Qilin beast. A trace of a smile flashed through his eyes, and he beckoned to the two children who were playing. "Mu Chun Yuer, come here. Daddy, Daddy, brother snatched my Chochio." The little one ran over with her short legs and threw herself into Xinyuan Mose's arms. Her pink little mouth pouted as she complained to Xinyuan Mose in a childish voice. On the other side, Mu Chun, who was wearing a white robe, stood there with a rattan ball in his hand. When he heard little Yu complaining to her father, he also walked forward and handed the rattan ball to her. "For you." Xinyuan Mose looked at the small handprint on his son's white robe, and then at his son's sullen face as he handed the rattan ball to his daughter. He reached out and rubbed his head. "You're the older brother, so you have to give in to your younger sister. All right, you can play with the ball for a while, but you can't play with it for too long. Your mother sent you a message. Do you want to hear her voice? When the two children heard this, their eyes immediately lit up. They squeezed into his arms and grabbed his robe. Daddy, Daddy, where's Mother? Where's Mother? Fengjiu had been gone for 7 to 8 months, and the two children were already more than 2 years old. Gradually, they couldn't remember Fengjiu's appearance, but they still remembered that their mother gave them a sense of security and warmth. Daddy said that their mother had gone to help them find a contracted beast and would bring it back to play with them. They had been waiting and hoping that their mother would come back soon. Mother hasn't returned yet, but she caught a little fox for you. The corners of Xianyuan Mose's lips curled up slightly. Looking at the two soft children's delicate faces and the portrait of their eyebrows, he also missed Fengjiu very much. Mother, did you catch the little fox for you? If Mother catches the little fox, will the little fox miss its mother? Daddy, you are Mrs. Mommy. Does little fox miss Mommy too? The little girl's delicate face scrunched up as she asked in a childish voice, Daddy, you are Mrs. Mommy. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose's eyes softened. He reached out and carried you, to sit on his lap. No, because little fox doesn't have a mother. Doesn't little fox have a mother? Why didn't the little fox have a mother? Then can you be little fox's mother? The little fellow blinked her pair of watery eyes as she looked at Xianyuan Mose. Her eyes were filled with curiosity and puzzlement. Hearing so many whys, Xianyuan Mose shook his head and smiled helplessly. When talking to children, sometimes one topic could lead to many topics. And the question they asked the most was why. When little Mukin heard that his mother had already caught the little fox for his sister, he couldn't help but reach his little hand out to tug at the corner of Xianyuan Mose's shirt. Daddy, did Mother catch the little beast for me? He asked. Chapter 42:53. The two little guys quietly leaned in Xianyuan Mose's arms and listened to the voice coming from the jade pendant. It was their mother's voice. When they were young, their mother often coaxed them to sleep. That voice was very familiar and made them feel at ease. Little Mu Chen's eyes lit up when he heard that his mother had found the ancient mythical Qilin beast. Because his mother said that she was going to catch it for him, she was now helping him catch the Qilin beast. After the light from the communication jade pendant faded, Xianyuan Mose looked at the two and asked, Do you want to talk to your mother? Yes, yes. The two little guys nodded heavily, their faces full of hope. Seeing this, he took out 2 communication jade pendants and handed them to them. This communication jade pendant belongs to your mother. I'll give each of you one. Keep it well. In the future, as long as you hold this communication jade pendant in your palm and speak to it, your mother will know. Under the surprised gazes of the two little fellows, he placed 2 communication jades in their little hands and said, However, your mother's family is out there, and she might be in danger sometimes. So, don't send messages to her with the communication jades so that she won't be distracted. Yes, yes. Daddy, we know. The two little guys clenched the jade pendant in their hands and hurriedly agreed. All right, you played for quite a while today. Let me test you on how well you've memorized the mantra. Who wants to go first? Xianyuan Mose asked as his gaze fell upon the two children. Little Yu blinked her big eyes and looked at Mu Chun, then at her father. Finally, she said crisply, Brother goes first. Thus, Mu Chun withdrew from Xianyuan Mose's arms. Just as he was about to recite the mental cultivation method, he heard his father's voice. Wait. As Xianyuan Mose spoke, he looked at the little one in his arms and said, You go down. Stand there and don't move. Oh. The little one responded and obediently went down to stand. Xianyuan Mose stretched out his hand and set up a soundproof enchantment. When he saw the little one staring at him with her eyes and mouth wide open, he smiled and said, Stand still. It will be your turn soon. Lung Hua and Qin Xin, who had been standing quietly in a corner, exchanged glances with each other and smiled faintly at the sight of this. The two little masters had 2 different personalities. Little Mu Chan was like a little adult, while little Yu was like a mischievous ghost. These 2 children played together all day long, and they were extremely fond of them. Listening to little Mu Chan reciting the cultivation chant in his soft and gentle voice, little Yu who was inside the soundproof barrier, started to become somewhat anxious. The two of them didn't feel that it was funny. With just one look, he knew that little Yu definitely hadn't studied properly. He reckoned that she still hadn't memorized the mnemonic chant. Sure enough, when it was her turn, she recited intermittently and missed a lot. He couldn't help but sweat for her. After a long time, the child's soft and gentle voice finally stopped. At this time, the courtyard was quiet and there wasn't the slightest sound. Finished reciting? After a long time, Xinyuan Mose asked. I finished reciting. Little Yu lowered her head and softly answered. Then tell me, between you and Mu Chun, who recited it better? Xinyuan Mose asked again. Little Yu raised her head and looked at her brother. She whispered, Brother recited it better than you. Then tell me, why did he recite it better than you? Xinyuan Mose asked again. Chapter 42:54. The little one hung her head and pouted her bright red lips as she played with her fingers. From time to time, she would sneak a peek at her father. Seeing him looking at her with a calm face, she couldn't help but bite her lips. Then she looked at Lung Hua and Qin Xian who were standing in the corner. Seeing that they didn't step forward to speak up for her, her eyes couldn't help but redden. Her head hung even lower, and her soft voice carried a trace of sobbing as she said, Because Yu was playful and didn't complete Daddy's task. Xinyuan Mose didn't coax her. He only looked at her and said, Raise your head and look at Daddy. Little Yu blinked her eyes. At the same time she raised her head, her tears also fell. She pitifully looked at her father. Did Daddy hit you? Xinyuan Mose asked. The little one shook his head. Then did Daddy scold you? He asked again. The little one still shook his head. Since Father didn't hit you or scold you, and you didn't finish the chants that Father made you memorize because you wanted to play, then why are you crying? Xinyuan Mose asked as his gaze fell on her little face. Hearing these words, little Yu thought for a bit and reached out to wipe her tears. She said, Daddy Yu was wrong. Yu will change. Yu will obediently memorize the chant in the future and won't be playful or cry anymore. Chin will also be obedient and listen to Daddy's words. He won't cry anymore. The little one at the side also said. Hearing this, Xinyuan Mose's expression relaxed. He nodded and stretched out his hand towards them. When the two children saw this, they immediately rushed forward and threw themselves into his embrace. They softly called out, Daddy. Xinyuan Mose held the two children's hands and looked at them with a serious expression. He said, You're still young and don't understand many things. But you must know that Daddy and Mommy won't harm you. Daddy and Mommy are very powerful people, and we also have a lot of enemies. You're our children, so you must cultivate well. Only this way, in the future, even if Daddy and Mommy aren't by your side, you'll be able to protect yourselves. Do you understand? The two children nodded as if they understood and looked at each other. Go. You can only go play after you memorize the chants today. Xinyuan Mose glanced at Lung Hua. Lung Hua stepped forward and said to the two children, Let's go. I'll take you out. The two children glanced at their father before following Lung Hua outside. Seeing Xinyuan Mose sitting there, Qin Xian went forward to make him a pot of hot tea and then quietly left. Outside, Yu, who was leaving with Lung Hua, looked up at Lung Hua and asked, Uncle Hua, when will Yu grow up? Hearing this, Lung Hua gently smiled. Yu, do you want to grow up? And Yu wants to grow up quickly. When Yu grows up, Yu can also be as powerful as father and mother. She said in a childish voice, as if she had already forgotten that she was crying earlier. Stupid. Little Mukin glanced at her and said, If you don't memorize the chant properly, you won't be powerful when you grow up. He said, looked at Lung Hua and asked, Uncle Hua, when will you teach us how to use spiritual power? Daddy said that we need to use spiritual power to activate the communication jade, but I don't know how to use it. Chapter 42:55. When they were still in Master's stomach, they had already absorbed the pure spiritual power in Master's body and formed innate spiritual power. In the future, as long as they cultivated, it would naturally be twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to teach them cultivation. After all, no matter how intelligent they were still only 2-year-old children. Uncle Hua, then how do I use the communication jade token to talk to Mother? Little Mu-chan asked. He got his mother's communication jade token from his father, so he naturally hoped to use it. Lung Hua smiled and said, "This is simple. I'll teach you how to use it later." When the two little guys heard this, their eyes suddenly lit up. With a happy face, they followed him to the study to memorize the incantation. At night, little Mu-chan lay on the bed, covered with a quilt, and looked at the communication jade token in his hand. He held the communication jade token tightly in his hand, according to the method Lung Hua taught him. After guiding the spiritual power in his body to stimulate the jade token, he saw the jade token emit a soft light. The little guy was happy, and a big smile appeared on his face. He nervously swallowed his saliva and carefully called out, "Mother, Mother, I'm Chung. Mother, do you still remember Chana? Today, Father gave me and little sister a communication jade token each. In the future, when Chun misses Mother, Chun can talk to Mother. Mother, Chun is very obedient." Father asked Chun and little sister to memorize the incantation. Chun has memorized it. As he spoke, he thought for a while, and his soft voice was filled with longing. Chun hasn't seen Mother for a long time. Chun misses Mother very much. Mother, when will you come back? He loosened his hand and felt the spiritual power withdraw. The light on the communication jade also dissipated. He lay on the bed and didn't move. He just looked like that. He wondered if Mother would reply to him in a while. "Brother, brother." Little Yu-er's childish voice came from outside the room. Before little Mu-chan could react, the door was pushed open and the little one trotted in with his little feet and headed towards the big bed in the inner room. "Brother, brother, why didn't my communication jade token light up? If it doesn't light up, does that mean Mother can't hear you? Brother, brother, what should I do? What should I do? Yua wants to speak with Mother." The little person was lying on the edge of the bed, pulling at the quilt on the bed. He wanted to pull the quilt and climb up, but he was short and his legs were short. He did not have enough strength. Mu-chan sat up and said, "Take off your boots." "Oh." Little Yu responded and looked left and right. She then moved a small stool to the side and used it as a stepping pad. After taking off her small boots, she climbed up on all fours. Mu-chan lifted the blanket and gestured for her to come in. Thus, the two children lay on the bed and chatted with the jade tablet. Outside, Bai Ching-chung appeared out of nowhere. She glanced at the room and quietly closed the door for the two children. "Big brother, did you talk to Mother?" Little Yu asked curiously when she saw the communication jade tablet in his hand. "Yes, I did." Mu-chan nodded in response. When she heard this, her eyes lit up and she quickly asked, "Really? Did Mother talk to you? What did Mother say?" "Mother hasn't replied yet," Mu-chan said and looked at the communication jade tablet in his hand. "Brother, brother, teach me how to use it. I also want to talk to Mother." Yu pulled on his sleeve and said. Chapter 4256. At the same time, in the Nightless Club, Fengjiu was resting in her room. When she heard the message sent by Xianyuan Mose through the communication jade tablet, her eyes couldn't help but soften. The two kids missed her so much. When she heard Mose say that he had reprimanded Yu today, she couldn't help but chuckle. Compared to her, he loved his daughter more, but she didn't expect that he would reprimand her. Originally, she thought that since he doted on his daughter so much, she didn't know what kind of unruly character she would become in the future. But now, it seemed that it wouldn't happen. As for, in her opinion, he taught her well. Feeling that the communication jade tablet was moving, she was slightly surprised. When she took it out to listen, she didn't expect that it was a soft and childish voice. It's Chun-er's voice. Her heart was sour, and she clenched the communication jade tablet in her hand. When she left, they were just babbling, and now they were talking so much. When she heard her son's voice from the communication jade tablet, her eyes couldn't help but become misty. How could she not miss them? But now, she couldn't return to their side because she hadn't finished her task. So, she used the communication jade to send a message back to them. On the other side, Mu-chan, who was sitting at the head of the bed, looked at his sister. He saw that she had tried many times but failed to light up the communication jade tablet with her spiritual power. From time to time, he would tell her what to do. At the same time, he looked at the communication jade tablet in his hand, waiting for his mother to reply to him. "Brother, you can't light it up," the little one said, somewhat discouraged. "You can try again. If it really doesn't work, I can help you and let you talk to Mother," little Mu Chun said. When his voice fell, the communication jade tablet in his hand emitted a gentle light. He was pleasantly surprised and said, "Sister, look." Mother replied to me. Seeing this, little Yu hurriedly went forward and said, "Brother, brother," quickly listen to what Mother said. Bai Qing Cheng, who was guarding outside the room, heard the words inside and smiled. She raised her head to look at the starry night and couldn't help but think of her younger brother in another continent. Back then, she had brought her younger brother to seek refuge with her master. She had stayed by her master's side, while her younger brother had been assigned to work in her master's business. After so many years, they had been apart more than together. In the room, the two little guys were carefully listening to the voice from the communication jade. Mother knows that Chun is the most obedient. Mother also misses you and you It's just that Mother has to help you catch contract beasts and can't go back now. However, it won't be long before Mother can go home to accompany you. Chun is the older brother, so you have to take care of your younger sister. Mother has brought you a lot of gifts, so you must listen to your father and wait for Mother to come home. Yes, Chun it will definitely be obedient. Chun it will also take care of little sister. Little Mu Chun said as he held the jade token in his hand. Upon seeing this, little Yu who was at the side, promptly said, "You will also be obedient. You will also take care of big brother." Little Mu Chun, who was next to her, heard this and glanced at her. He obviously did not believe her words. He put away the communication jade tablet and said, "Father said that I can't use it too often so that Mother won't be distracted. Let's sleep." Chapter 42:57. Although they had memorized the mnemonic chant, they couldn't understand what it meant. He wanted to cultivate properly, so he had to quickly learn how to read. This way, in the future, he could be like what his father and Uncle Hua had said. Mother could refine pills when she read, and she could cultivate by herself when she read. Hearing his words, little Yu finally calmed down. She closed her eyes, and her eyelashes trembled. She kept repeating in her heart, "Yu, sleep, sleep." 2 days later, Fengjiu brought the little fox out of her space at the Nightless Club. She looked at its 9 conspicuous tails and said, "You can turn these 9 tails into one, right?" When the little fox heard her words, it looked back at its tails and hid them one by one, leaving only one behind. Fengjiu revealed a satisfied smile and stretched out her hand. "Come up." The little fox paused for a moment and jumped into her arms. "Don't speak in front of people, so as not to scare them. I'll take you out for a stroll and let you see the world outside the Cyan Demon Forest." As she spoke, a medicinal pill appeared in her hand. It emitted a rich spiritual aura and a sweet fragrance. When the little fox saw the medicinal pill in her palm, its eyes lit up. It rolled its tongue and immediately swallowed the medicinal pill. In the past 2 days, although she had been fierce to it and had threatened it, she had treated it extremely well. From time to time, she would get it pills to eat. Every time it ate those pills, it would feel a burst of comfort throughout its body, and its cultivation would also increase a little. After 2 days, it saw that there were so many benefits to following her, so it gradually accepted her. And she had said that she wouldn't form a contract with it and would leave it to her daughter. What kind of daughter would she be? Fengjiu stroked its head and walked out. Lung Shuang, Du Fan, Yi Fei Fei, and Wang Yu were already waiting outside the courtyard. When they saw her come out, they greeted her and went forward with her. The Nightless Club's monthly trip was usually led by the city lord, but today it was led by Elder Yin and another middle-aged man. Hundreds of people were waiting outside the city lord's gate. "I heard that the guests from other places will be following us today, and the city lord seems to be bringing them to the Qilin Mountain." "Yes, I heard from Elder Yin that those people seem to be very strong. The city lord thinks highly of them. Actually, I'm quite curious about where they came from. Could it be that they are stronger than the city lord?" I don't know. The sounds of discussion could be heard as the city gate was opened and a few people walked out. Occasionally, there would be silence. They stood upright, quietly looking at the city lord and the few people who walked out. Greetings, city lord. Everyone's voices rang out at the same time. They were orderly and loud, reverberating in the air, causing one's expression to shake. The city lord raised his hand and said, "Everyone, I believe that Elder Yin has already told you that I will go with you on this trip, but I will not return with you. You have to be extremely vigilant on the way." "Yes," everyone replied in unison. The city lord turned to look at Fengjiu and the others and said, "Miss Feng, let's go." Fengjiu nodded slightly and followed them out of the city gate. After the mighty team exited the city gate, they all rode on their swords and followed the signs on the road. Chapter 4258. Miss Feng, this is the map you asked for. The city lord took out a map and sat down beside her. He spread it open and said, "That day, you should have gone in this direction. There's a desert in this direction, and not a single blade of grass grows. It's extremely hot, and there's no water source. If cultivators from other places enter this place by mistake, they'll either get lost or die of thirst due to the sun. You were really lucky that day." Fengjiu looked at the map. Indeed, there was a desert in one direction on the map, and there was no oasis at all. In comparison, although there were no cities or people for hundreds of miles in this direction, there were trees along the way, so it was still feasible. Looking at the distance, "We're not far from where we're going," Fengjiu said. "That's right. This time, we traveled faster and shortened the distance. Based on this speed, we'll reach Infinite City in one day." He pointed at a town drawn on the map. Then, the city lord told Fengjiu about the layout of this place and the location of Qilin Mountain. While the city lord, Fengjiu, and Du Fan were engrossed in their conversation, Elder Yin had already ordered people to set up camp and rest. Black tents were erected in the small forest, creating a unique scenery. "City lord, Miss Feng, the tents are set up. You can go and rest first." Hearing that, the city lord looked at Fengjiu and said, "Miss Feng, you can go and rest for a while. Rest up before you continue." As he spoke, he looked at Du Fan and said apologetically, "The tents are limited, so I'll have to trouble Brother Du and Brother Wang to stay in the same place." Du Fan smiled and said, "As long as the city lord makes the arrangements, we can stay anywhere." Fengjiu smiled and walked towards the tents with the city lord and the others. The three women shared a tent. The city lord, Du Fan, and Wang Yu shared a tent, and the others squeezed together. Fengjiu and the others entered the tent, while Du Fan and Wang Yu followed the castellan to another tent. Seeing many people patrolling outside, Du Fan stopped and asked, "Castellan, is there any danger in this area?" "Oh, there won't be any humans, but there will be ferocious beasts. Maybe we won't encounter them, but it's always good to be on alert in advance." Hearing this, Du Fan nodded and went in with Wang Yu. The black tent blocked out the dazzling sunlight. Although it was dim, it made people feel comfortable. They lay down on the mats inside to rest, while there were still people patrolling outside. On Fengjiu's side, as soon as Fei laid down and exhaled softly, the little spirit mouse in her arms scurried out and jumped around her body while squeaking. "Don't be noisy. Hurry up and rest." Fei reached out to grab it and stuffed it into her arms. Unexpectedly, the little thing squeaked again. Fengjiu, who was sitting cross-legged, stroked the little fox lying next to him and said with a smile, Fei, your treasure-hunting mouse has been quiet, but it keeps squeaking here, and it seems that it wants to take you to find something. You'd better go." Hearing Fengjiu's words, Fei, who was still a little tired, immediately sat up and her eyes lit up. "Master, do you think there will be any treasures around here?" "I don't know." Fengjiu shrugged his shoulders. Chapter 4259. "Master, I'll go take a look." Fei got up and prepared to go out. "Lung Shuang, you go with them." Fengjiu gestured and looked at Lung Shuang. "Yes," Lung Shuang replied. She left the tent with Fei and headed to the back. When the patrolman saw the two of them leave the tent, he couldn't help but look at each other and said, "Why did they go there? Should we tell Elder Yin and the others?" "It's better to tell them in case something happens." As the other person spoke, he walked towards another tent and told Elder Yin about Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei's departure. Elder Yin thought for a while and said, "Don't worry about it. They shouldn't have gone far. Besides, since Miss Feng didn't say anything, it means she allowed it. Don't worry." "Yes." The patrolling cultivator responded and left. The spirit mouse jumped on the ground and led Yi Feifei and Lung Shuang deeper into the tent. After walking for a long distance, it stopped at a small spring. There's a spring here," Yi Feifei said in surprise. She went forward and drank some water. Then she took out a magic tool from her space and filled it with water. She looked at the little spirit mouse and said, "You brought us here to find this spring? It's not a treasure." Squeak, 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 squeak. The little spirit mouse squeaked and used its front paws to scratch at the edge of the spring. "You said there's a treasure in the spring?" Yi Feifei blinked. He was a little surprised, but he didn't doubt it. Instead, he went forward to take a closer look. This small spring wasn't big, but the water was extremely clear. Moreover, there was a spiritual aura permeating the air. The source of the water seeped up from the ground, but he didn't know why it became spiritual water. Elder Sister Lung Shuang, "This water seems to be spiritual water." Yi Feifei looked back at her and said in surprise, "Look inside the spring." Lung Shuang said and gestured for her to look. "Okay." Yi Feifei replied and rolled up her sleeves. She reached out and touched the spring. It doesn't seem to be anything. There are only some stones in the sand below. As Yi Feifei spoke, he retracted his hand and looked at the spring water again. He found that there was a faint flash of light in the water. It seems like there really is a treasure here." She happily reached out her hand towards the spot where the light came from. Not long after, she pulled out a bead the size of an egg from the sand. "Sister Lung Shuang, what kind of bead is this?" Yi Feifei showed her the bead. Lung Shuang took it and glanced at the place where the spring water was originally gushing out. There was still water seeping out, but it had lost its spiritual energy. She retracted her gaze and looked at the pearl in her hand. She saw that the pearl was suffused with a water-blue luster, and there seemed to be water ripples surging inside. She said, "This should be a water spirit pearl, but I have never seen such a big water spirit pearl. Then let's take it back and show it to Master." Yi Feifei grabbed the little spirit mouse and stuffed it into his arms. Then he walked back with Lung Shuang. Feng Jiu was resting with his eyes closed. When he heard footsteps, he opened his eyes and saw the two of them walking in. Chapter 4260. Feng Jiu took it and looked at it, saying, "It's definitely a water spiritual pearl, and it's an extremely rare treasure. Most water spiritual pearls are only the size of an egg yolk. Very few are as big as this one." She handed the water spiritual pearl back to her, saying, "Keep it well." Hearing this, Yi Feifei pushed it back, saying, "Master, keep it. It's useless to me." Feng Jiu smiled, saying, "Although this water spiritual pearl is a rare treasure, it's useless to me, so keep it. Maybe it'll be useful in the future." Hearing her words, Yi Feifei put the bead away. Everyone has their own opportunities. This spiritual mouse that you found by chance is really good. Feng Jiu glanced at the spiritual mouse that poked its little head out of her arms. Hearing this, Yi Feifei smiled happily, saying, "It doesn't have any other abilities. It only knows how to find treasures. All right, let's rest." Feng Jiu gestured, then closed her eyes to rest. Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei saw this and also rested at the side. The cultivators patrolling outside took turns, and not long after the next group of cultivators patrolled, they heard the ground shake slightly, as if something was coming this way. "Not good, it's ferocious beasts." A cultivator shouted, and the cultivators in the tent quickly came out to prepare for battle. There are no towns around them. If there were any, it would be ferocious beasts. "It sounds like there are a lot of them. Everyone be on guard." "Be on guard," Elder Yin shouted in a deep voice, and the cultivators quickly formed a protective circle around them, uniformly protecting the city lord, Feng Jiu, and the others in the middle. Hearing the commotion, the city lord, Du Fan, and Wang Yu came out, and after seeing the situation, the city lord shook his head and smiled bitterly, saying, I didn't expect to be attacked by ferocious beasts here. Dufan took a look. There were dozens of ferocious beasts that looked like bulls, but were not bulls, with hard skin and a sharp horn on their head. They were large and strong, and at this moment, they were charging towards them. Wherever the vicious beasts passed, a cloud of dust was raised. Many trees were destroyed, and the ground trembled slightly because of their heavy footsteps. This is a herd of beasts. Their ranks aren't high, so it'll be easy to deal with them. When Dufan was about to help with Wang Yu, a little white fox rushed in front of them. It stood on top of the tent, raised its head, and squeaked at the ferocious beasts. Roar! For a moment, the ferocious beasts let out roars, and their running hooves abruptly stopped. They looked at the little white fox on top of the tent, and in the next moment, they all let out a low howl and retreated backwards, not daring to take another step forward. Seeing this, the little fox proudly raised its head and puffed its chest out, leaving the hundreds of cultivators standing in the wind in disarray as they looked at the unbelievable scene in front of them in shock. Even the city lord, who had seen a lot, was stunned at this time. He watched in disbelief as the little fox entered Feng Jiu's tent. Only then did he recover and look at Du Fan, asking, "Brother Du, that little fox, the little fox had been following them when they left the city, but he didn't take it seriously, thinking it was just a little fox spirit." Unexpectedly, when the little white fox appeared, those ferocious beasts didn't even dare to fight and retreated backwards. Chapter 42:61. That's my master's pet. Du Fan smiled and didn't say much. Oh, the city lord didn't ask any more questions. His tense heart relaxed slightly, and he let out a light sigh. It would be best if they didn't have to fight. If they did, they would inevitably be injured, and it would be troublesome to return. I can't sleep now. Why don't you have a chat with us, city lord? Du Fan said with a smile. He didn't plan to rest anymore, but wanted to talk to him about the Nightless Club. The city lord didn't refuse and returned to the tent to chat with them. Watching them enter the tent, Elder Yin and the others looked on with strange expressions. A little fox could actually scare off those ferocious beasts? What kind of fox was that little fox? How could it be so powerful? Feng Jiu and the other two slept in the tent until Du Fan and the others came to wake them up. The group continued on to their destination. A day later, when their group arrived outside a city gate, the city lord smiled and said to Feng Jiu beside him, "This is the place. Infinite City is the largest town in this area, and it's also the most prosperous trading city. A few years ago, the population of this city was estimated to be more than 1 million people. The city is divided into 4 gates: east, west, north, and south. We'll enter the east gate from here, which is also the closest city gate to us." Feng Jiu nodded and said, "Are all the people we've agreed on waiting here?" "That's right. The meeting place is the city lord's official residence. Allow me to inform Elder Yin and the others. Then I'll go with Miss Feng." As he spoke, he turned back to instruct Elder Yin and the other middle-aged leader to lead the group into the city to purchase and trade. Only then did he enter the city with Feng Jiu and the others and head towards the city lord's official residence. The group didn't follow them after entering the city. Feng Jiu, the city lord, and the others walked into the city and were quickly attracted by the bustle of the city. The sky above the city was also covered by a black net to block out the sun. The temperature in the city was relatively cooler than outside. The people of Infinite City didn't all wear white, but they all wore plain or light-colored clothes. The people here were exposed to the sun all year round, so their skin was usually darker. Even the most beautiful women looked slightly inferior because of their dark skin. Therefore, when Feng Jiu and Lang Shuang appeared in the city, whether it was men or women, elderly or children, they all looked at them with amazement and curiosity. Not to mention that the two of them were extremely beautiful. Just their skin of ice and jade was something that they rarely saw. Not to mention that one of these two beauties was wearing a dazzling red dress, while the other was wearing a black dress that was cold and elegant. It was difficult for people to not notice them. Although Yi Fei was also quite beautiful, she paled in comparison to the two's radiance. On top of that, she was slightly tanned from the sun, so she was naturally overlooked. However, she didn't mind and instead looked at the things in the city curiously. She looked around the stalls and quickly caught up with Fengjiu and the others. A few cultivators who were collecting fees at the stalls saw Fengjiu and Leng Shuang, and their eyes lit up with amazement. They nudged the cultivators beside them with their elbows to signal them, then walked forward with the coins in their hands. They didn't even look as they walked, obviously intentionally bumping into Fengjiu and Leng Shuang. Chapter 4262. Bang! She only kicked the person in front of her. The person in front of her flew out and naturally crashed into the people behind him. In a moment, those people all groaned and fell to the ground. She smiled embarrassedly and said, "It seems like I used too much strength." Fengjiu smiled slightly and did not say anything. He only glanced at those people indifferently. "Stinking woman, you dare to kick me." Perhaps it was because he was used to being arrogant in this city, but after being kicked and falling to the ground, he immediately jumped up and waved his fist at Yi Feifei with a fierce look in his eyes. Hitting a woman? Du Fan raised her eyebrows and closed the fan in front of her chest. She did not even move her hand and directly kicked out again. Gotcha! With a cracking sound, that cultivator's fist was kicked by Du Fan's foot. The bone between his thumb and index finger was broken. Suddenly, a shrill scream came out from that cultivator's mouth. That voice broke the bustle and clamor in the surroundings. Everyone turned their heads to look at the source of the voice. When they saw that the cultivator who collected money from the peddlers in the city had his hand broken by a kick, shock and astonishment appeared on their faces. Who are these people? How dare they hit that Tiger Wong? They look unfamiliar. They should be from somewhere else. They even dare to hit the local snake. They are really not afraid of death. Puffed. I think Tiger Wong saw that those two girls were beautiful and wanted to take advantage of them. This time, not only did he not take advantage of them, but he also got his hand broken. This kind of person deserves it. The surrounding people discussed in low voices. Some were worried, some were curious, and some were rejoicing in other people's misfortune. The city lord looked at the person on the ground and frowned. He said to Fengjiu, "Miss Feng, the power in this city is complicated. Let's forget about it and avoid more trouble." "Fine, let's go," Fengjiu said and did not pay attention to that person. Instead, he walked forward with the city lord. "Want to leave? You broke my hand. Do you think you can still leave?" The man stared at Fengjiu and Du Fan with a ferocious expression. "Why don't you ask around? I'm Tiger Wong. Today, none of you can leave." As he shouted, he released a signal from his hand. With a whoosh, it rang out in the air. Seeing this, Fengjiu's lips curled into a faint smile. The city lord frowned and his face darkened. He took a step forward and asked, "Which force are you from?" "Old man, why do you care which faction I'm from? I'm someone you can't afford to offend." The cultivator whose hand was broken shouted in a gloomy voice. He reached out to push the city lord away, but he found that no matter how much strength he used, he couldn't make the city lord take even half a step back. He couldn't help but feel ashamed and angry. He pointed at the city lord and said, You just wait. Don't run if you have the guts." "How dare you?" The city lord shouted in a deep voice. With a flick of his sleeve, he released his pressure. Immediately, the few of them couldn't even stand under the pressure and fell to their knees. "People like you don't deserve to be a cultivator at all," the city lord said in a deep voice. He raised his hand and was about to destroy their cultivation, but he was stopped by Fengjiu. "For people like them, I'll just destroy them. You don't have to dirty your hands." Fengjiu smiled faintly and glanced at Wang Yu. "Destroy their cultivation." "Yes," Wang Yu responded and immediately destroyed their cultivation. Chapter 4263. The forces in the city were complicated, but not many forces dared to destroy someone's cultivation so casually. Who was this woman in red? What's going on? Two teams came quickly. One was the team of guards in the city, and the other was the people who followed the signal. Fengjiu glanced at them and said to Du Fan, "You guys stay here. We'll go first. See you at the city lord's mansion." "Yes," Du Fan and the others answered. "Why don't I say a few words?" Otherwise, the city lord was worried that they would be at a disadvantage because they had fewer people, so he couldn't help but stop. Fengjiu smiled and said, "Don't worry. I don't think anyone in the city is a match for Du Fan and Leng Shuang." Originally, it was enough to leave Du Fan and Wang Yu, but she wanted them to deal with things as soon as possible, so she let Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei stay. With their strength, she didn't worry about anything happening to them. Just as she was thinking, she saw that the little fox had disappeared after entering the city. She didn't know where it went, so she called, "Little fox?" Not long after, the snow-white little fox rushed out of the crowd and jumped directly into Fengjiu's arms, squeaking twice. "Don't run around," Fengjiu said, gently stroking its head and stroking its fur. The city lord glanced at the little fox in Fengjiu's arms and couldn't help but ask curiously, "Miss Feng, what's the rank of your fox?" Fengjiu looked down at the little fox in his arms and smiled. "It's just a wild fox." Seeing this, the city lord didn't ask any more questions. If it was just a wild fox, it wouldn't have the ability to make a group of fierce beasts tremble and leave on their knees. However, even a nascent soul cultivator like him couldn't tell what rank it was. It was really embarrassing. The two of them went to the city lord's mansion. At the same time, 7 or 8 nascent soul cultivators were sitting in the hall and chatting. They were all familiar with each other and had dealings with each other. It was just that it was rare for so many people to gather together, so they chatted and joked with each other. "Ha ha, Brother Pingji, I heard that you took in another beautiful concubine last month. You're really lucky with women." "Ha ha ha, Brother Lei, you know that I've always been fond of beauties. There are only a few things I want in life. Now that we have such cultivation, why should we make things difficult for ourselves?" A middle-aged man with a radiant face smiled and said with a radiant smile, "People should treat themselves better." As he spoke, he paused and glanced at him. "I remember that you're all alone right now. Why don't I send you a few beauties later?" "Ha ha ha." When the 7 or 8 people in the hall heard this, they all raised their heads and laughed. The cultivator surnamed Lei shook his head and smiled helplessly. "I appreciate Brother Pingji's good intentions, but I'm not interested in beauties. He had so many great-grandchildren under him. Why would he care about beauties?" For people like them who had reached this level of cultivation, if they didn't like beauties, they would generally pay more attention to cultivation. With a status as an ancestor in the family, if he wanted any beauties, wouldn't it be just a matter of words? Chapter 42:64. Hearing this, everyone shook their heads. One of them said, "He only told us that he would bring a few friends with him. He didn't say anything else. However, I think that since Old Man Gu is a calm person, the people he brought shouldn't be too bad. They might even lend us a hand." "Yes, I think so too." The other person nodded and said, "By the way, haven't they arrived yet?" Everyone looked at each other and looked at the city lord who was sitting in the main seat. "Brother Jiang, did they say when they would arrive?" City Lord Jiang stroked his beard and smiled. "2 days ago, I heard from Old Gu that they would arrive today. Even if they haven't entered the city yet, they shouldn't be too far away." Hearing this, everyone nodded. "That's good." Just as they were talking, the housekeeper hurried over and reported, City Lord Gu is here." "Oh." City Lord Jiang chuckled and said to everyone, "Look, they're already here. Come in, come in." Outside, City Lord Gu and Fengjiu walked towards the main hall together. Before they entered, they could hear the laughter in the hall. The two of them walked in, and the city lord cupped his hands and smiled at everyone. "Everyone, I'm late. Sorry for making you wait." However, everyone's eyes were attracted to Fengjiu, who was dressed in red and holding a little white fox. These nascent soul cultivators had seen their fair share of beauties, but they had never seen someone as beautiful as the one in front of them. Her beauty was breathtaking and dazzling. For a moment, everyone's eyes were filled with amazement. Among them, the nascent soul cultivator named Pingji was the most shocked. Everyone saw that she was dressed in red and dazzling. They couldn't find a better word to describe her beautiful face. They only knew that as she walked in, the entire hall was lit up. Her expression was indifferent. Her clear eyes were indifferent, and there was a faint smile on her lips. Her expression was lazy and casual. She held a snow-white little fox in her arms and stood there quietly, showing off what it meant to be peerless in a generation. Looking at her, everyone in the hall couldn't help but stand up. This was because there was an aura of nobility emanating from her body. It was a mysterious and unfathomable aura that made others not dare to put on airs in front of her. Old Gu, this is... Everyone looked at Lord Gu, wanting him to introduce them. He. This is the friend I told you about. Her surname is Feng, and I call her Miss Feng. Gu Cheng smiled and said, there are still a few people who were delayed by some matters. They will arrive later. City Lord Gu could understand everyone's stunned expressions. After all, when he first met her, he was also like them. However, he believed that these old friends of his would be able to tell that Miss Feng wasn't simple. Thus, there was no need for him to say anything. So if it's Miss Feng, the middle-aged cultivator named Pingji smiled and cupped his hands. Miss Feng, I'm Yuan Pingji. Fengjiu nodded slightly and smiled back. Let me introduce you. Lord Gu smiled and said to Fengjiu, this is the city lord of Infinite City, Jiang Honglin. This is Lei Yao, and this is... Chapter 4265. No. Come, have a seat. Yuan Pingji smiled and extended his hand to invite her to sit. He said, this Qilin mountain is extremely dangerous. Why would Miss Feng want to go there? When old Gu introduced her, he only said that her surname was Feng and did not even mention her name. Everyone present was smart and knew that she did not want people to ask too much. Hence, they did not ask anything else and only asked about her purpose. Fengjiu was led by Gu Cheng to a seat and sat down. He then said, I heard that there is an ancient Qilin beast in the Qilin mountain. I also want to see it. I heard from Gu Cheng that everyone will be going to the Qilin mountain, so I asked him to bring us along. Us? An old man stroked his beard. Then, as if he remembered something, he smiled and said, oh, right. I just heard from old Gu that there are still a few people who have not arrived and were delayed on the way. May I know who those people are? Fengjiu smiled and said, they're the people around me. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. They wanted to say something, but did not. If they brought Miss Feng alone, it would not be a problem. After all, she did not look weak. However, if they brought the people around her, would they not have to take care of them? This would slow down their journey and would not be of any help to their trip. They wanted to refuse, but felt that it was not good. Hence, they suppressed their thoughts and thought that they would discuss it later or see how strong those people were. The few of them chatted in the hall. They drank tea and talked about the plan. After a long time, just as they were about to disperse and rest, they heard the housekeeper report. Governor, the other guests have arrived. Because of the previous instructions, the housekeeper brought Du Fan and the others in when they arrived. Oh, they are here? Then invite them in, the governor said. He did not know what kind of people they were, so he did not lack the necessary etiquette. Du Fan and the others walked in. They bowed to Fengjiu and called out, Master. Then they looked at the others in the hall and sized them up quietly. When they came in, everyone in the hall was also sizing them up. They thought that they would be from Miss Feng's family, but they did not expect to hear them call Fengjiu Master. This made them even more surprised, because these people were excellent in appearance and bearing. No one would doubt that they were from aristocratic families. Moreover, their cultivation did not seem weak, but they called Miss Feng Master. This made them secretly wonder, where did Miss Feng come from? Why were all the people around her so outstanding? This is City Lord Jiang of Infinite City. The others are the nascent soul cultivators who came with us this time. Fengjiu introduced briefly. Seeing this, Du Fan and the others cupped their hands and bowed slightly. Greetings, everyone. The nascent soul realm cultivators nodded slightly in acknowledgement. They did not get up and did not pay too much attention to them. In their opinion, they might not be weak, but they were only stronger than them. In addition, they were the elders of their families. Naturally, they did not need to be too courteous to these juniors. Chapter 4266. Fengjiu and the others left with the housekeeper. Just as Gu Cheng was about to follow, he was pulled back by someone. He turned around and saw them giving him a look. He then looked at Fengjiu and the others. Seeing that they were already far away, he asked, What's wrong? Is there anything else? The corners of their mouths twitched. They glanced at him speechlessly and said, You're planning to leave just like that? Shouldn't you have a good talk with us? Gu Cheng was startled. He smiled and said, What else do you want to say? I've already said what I wanted to say. Ruan Pingji pulled him to the side and sat down. He said, Come. Tell us, where did you get to know Miss Feng? Where's she from? Why did you only say her surname is Feng and didn't even say her name? What's your relationship with her? Also, hearing his endless questions, Gu Cheng was speechless. He interrupted him and said, That's enough. He looked at him with a serious expression and said, Pingji, I'm warning you. Don't put your thoughts on Miss Feng. She's not someone you and I can provoke. Don't even provoke the people around her, let alone her. Hearing this, everyone was startled. It was rare to see him so serious. For a moment, even Ruan Pingji quieted down and thought carefully about his words. City Lord Jiang then said, Old Gu, don't worry. Pingji knows what to do. However, what's Miss Feng's background? Shouldn't you at least tell us a little bit? That's right. You suddenly said that you were going to bring a few friends over. We thought that you were going to meet some nascent soul cultivators, but we didn't expect them to be so young. You should at least tell us a little bit about them, so we can know where they came from. Another person spoke up, his gaze landing on Lord Gu. Seeing that they were all looking at him, wanting to know about Feng Jiao and the others from him, City Lord Gu couldn't help but sigh. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. If I knew, I wouldn't hide it from you. The problem is, I really don't know what you're asking. I don't know which family she's from, nor do I know where she came from. I also don't know what her name is. I only know that they're not from our world, and they're very strong. I really don't know anything else. Cultivators from other worlds. City Lord Jiang was slightly startled. How do they come here? Can we communicate with other worlds here? That's impossible. That's right. Cultivators from other worlds can't come here, right? If it was possible, we would have gone to other worlds to take a look. Why would we stay here all the time? Another person also spoke. An old man who hadn't spoken all this time pondered and said, Could it be that they have some kind of teleportation treasure on them? All right, don't make wild guesses. They came here by accident. As for the rest, don't ask or talk about it. If I don't want to talk about it, don't ask either. Just remember my words and don't provoke them. As City Lord Gu spoke, he stood up and prepared to walk out. However, when he stepped out of the door, he stopped and looked back at City Lord Jiang. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. Chapter 4267. Hearing his words, Lord Gu Cheng said, Send someone to the city to inquire about it. As he spoke, he didn't say anything else and walked out. Inquire about it? Inquire about what? The people in the hall looked at each other, not knowing what he meant. Lord Jiang paused for a moment, then called someone in. After giving some instructions, he said to several people, You go and have a rest first. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, everyone nodded and walked out. They only said, If you find out anything, remember to let us know. On the other side, after Feng Jiao and others came to the place to rest and waited for the housekeeper to leave, Du Fan told Feng Jiao about the matter. That Wang Laohu is a member of an underground force in the city. That team didn't want to settle the matter peacefully, so we beat them at their own game and let them take him to the place of the underground force. This force mostly relies on strength to do evil. Many forces in the city don't dare to confront them head-on because this force has a nascent soul stage ancestor. So after we found the underground force and saw that they didn't intend to stop, we abolished the strength and cultivation of a nascent soul stage ancestor. Now, the strongest person in this force is only a practitioner at the peak of the gold core stage, which is not enough to run rampant in the city. Hearing this, Feng Jiao nodded. Well, as long as the matter is handled well. Then, she glanced at Wang Yu and said, You can leave now. Yes. Wang Yu responded and then left. He knew that, after all, he was not her subordinate, and there were many things that she avoided him. Feng Jiao motioned Du Fan and others to sit down, and then asked, What did you find about the book I asked you to check? She asked while playing with the soft snow-white fur of the little fox lying on her lap. I was thinking of finding a time to report this matter to the master. Du Fan smiled and said, I did manage to obtain some information from the ancient city, Lord's treasure trove. According to the records, there is indeed a Qilin beast in the Qilin mountain. It is the contracted beast of the sovereign of this world. It is not much different from what the ancient city lord said. It's just that the battle between the two monarchs has been erased. I don't know who the other monarch is. I searched through the ancient books, but couldn't find any relevant information. However, there's a poem that I think might be the hiding place of the ancient Qilin. Moreover, it seems that Master is destined to come here. Oh, what poem? Fengjiu asked curiously. It was written by a cultivator who was proficient in divination. There was a poem recorded in the broken ancient book. The ancient Qilin beast dwelled in a lava cave and slept for 10,000 years. There will be a time when it will awaken. And at the end of this 5-character poem, there are a few words. Strange stars move. Phoenix Lord appears. Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. The world is really full of strange things. Moreover, the ability is not human. Separated by heaven and earth. Who knew that she would appear at this time? Moreover, she encountered the ancient Qilin beast here. It could only be said that the person who could predict the destiny was too powerful. Du Fan nodded and said, "It's just that I didn't see the lava cave in the Qilin mountain on the map, and I asked the ancient city lord. He didn't seem to have seen the poem and the words I read. Moreover, he said that there was no lava cave in the Qilin mountain." Chapter 42:68. Fengjiu smiled and said, "Wait until we reach the Qilin mountain to look for this magma land. We'll find it eventually. But what's up with the Nightless Club's son? Did you find any clues about it? The records in the ancient books are the same as what the ancient city lord said. There's no difference, and there's no way to break it." Du Fan said. Hearing this, Fengjiu pondered slightly. "So if it's like this, then it's not easy to do." "Master, why is it not easy? You're not the Lord of heaven and earth, right? You should have the ability to do it." Yi Feifei said. In her opinion, her master was omnipotent. "It's not that easy. If I don't find the problem, I can't do anything." Fengjiu sighed softly. She held her chin with one hand and looked at Du Fan. Her eyes flashed and said, "However, if I become the Lord of heaven and earth, maybe I can break the curse of the other lords." Seeing her staring at him, Du Fan was startled and said, "Master, you don't want me to take over here, do you?" Fengjiu smiled. "Although this place is not as prosperous as other places, if the curse is broken, everything in this world will be restored. With your strength, it's more than enough to be the Lord of heaven and earth. Don't you want to think about it?" Du Fan shook his head and smiled helplessly. "Master, let me go. I don't want to be the Lord of heaven and earth. I'm just thinking that Lung Hua will be your housekeeper, and I'll be your Lord of heaven and earth. As for other things, I'm not very interested." He didn't want to be the Lord of heaven and earth. Otherwise, he would have had the chance long ago. In his opinion, being the Lord of heaven and earth was better than anything else. Worried that his master would have ideas about him again, he smiled and said, "Master, if you really don't want to take over, then when we go back in the future, one of Luo, you, and the others can take over. Besides Qi Kong, there are 7 other people who can take over." "All right, we'll talk about this later. You guys go and rest." Fengjiu stood up with a smile and walked towards one of the rooms. The 3 people looked at each other and went to rest. Even though the city was big, it was easy to find out if something big had happened. Thus, when City Lord Jiang found out about what had happened outside, he understood why Lord Gucheng had asked him to gather information. After receiving the news, he went to Gu City Lord's room. They sat and drank tea and chatted. "The people I sent came back. In addition to Wang Hu and the others, their cultivation, the cultivation of the ancestor of the underground force, the cultivation of the nascent soul stage ancestor of the ancestor of heaven and earth was abolished. Not only I got the news, but also the cultivation of the nascent soul ancestor, the ancestor of ancestor with the master with Lord. When he heard that the cultivation of the nascent soul stage ancestor of the underground force had been crippled by Du Fan, City Lord Gooseface was also filled with astonishment. His cultivation was actually crippled? How can he be so powerful? To be able to go to that underground force, cripple the cultivation of the old ancestor, and then leave unscathed, their strength and cultivation must be really strong. City Lord Jiang sighed with emotion. He was a little glad that he hadn't mishandled the situation. Chapter 42:69. They rested in the City Lord's mansion for a day. After preparing everything they needed, they set off on their flying swords towards the Chelan Mountain. A few days later, they stopped in front of a dense forest. At this time, the 7 or 8 nascent soul stage cultivators were a little tired because of the long journey. When they looked at Feng Jiao and the others, they couldn't help but be secretly surprised. Except for Yi Fei and Wang Yu, who looked a little tired, the other 3 still looked the same and didn't even sweat much. Moreover, after so many days, the 3 of them looked as if the sun couldn't reach them. Their skin was still the same, and there was no trace of sunburn or tanning. The Lord of Goose City was fine. He had seen how extraordinary they were and wasn't too surprised. Therefore, he looked at Feng Jiao and said, "Miss Feng, after passing through the dense forest in front of us, we will reach the Chelan Mountain." "Yes," Feng Jiao responded and glanced at them. "The dense forest in front of us is cooler. Why don't we rest there for a while?" "I have the same idea." The nascent soul stage cultivator surnamed Lei said, "Let's go ahead and drink some water. We will reach the Chelan Mountains soon. There's no hurry." Therefore, they went to the dense forest and found a place to rest. Sitting down under the tree, Feng Jiao looked at the people drinking water and asked, "Where do you plan to start looking?" Sitting opposite her, Wan Pingji saw her words and said, "The Chelan mountain range is connected by mountains. We have searched the mountain range in front of us a few years ago. This time, we plan to go deeper into the forest to search." Hearing this, Feng Jiao nodded and asked, "Is there any place in the Chelan mountain with magma?" "Magma? No, right? This place is a chain of mountains. How can there be a magma field?" Everyone looked at each other in dismay, a little surprised. Seeing this, Feng Jiao didn't say anything more. She just took out water from the space and drank it while thinking. If there was magma, there wouldn't be any grass growing. It shouldn't be difficult to find it. At that moment, she said, "Du Fan, take out the map." Du Fan stepped forward and took out the map from the space. He spread it out in front of her and said, "Master, do you want me and Lang Shuang to take them to search separately? Let me look at the terrain here first." Feng Jiao said, looking carefully at the map. After finding their current location, she spread out to check the surroundings. "Have you been to this mountain?" Feng Jiao asked Elder Gu. Elder Gu took a look and shook his head. Then he asked Feng Jiao, "It's not special at all. I think we'll know after seeing it. That's a bear mountain. There's nothing to see there. There's not even a place to hide. The ancient Chelan won't be there." One of them said and pointed in another direction. "We plan to go there. The forest there is lush. If there is a Chelan beast, it should be hiding there." Seeing this, Feng Jiao said, "If that's the case, let's split into 2. You go there and look, and we'll go here. If we don't find anything, we'll go to your side. It shouldn't take too much time." Chapter 4270. Hearing this, Feng Jiao could not help but smile. "No need, just a few of us are enough. You guys go ahead first. If we don't find anything, we will follow." But Wan Pingji wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Gu Cheng. "All right, then you guys be careful. You know our direction. If you don't find anything there, come here to find us." "All right then. You guys be careful. There are many ferocious beasts in this forest. If you encounter any danger, you can send us a signal." Wan Pingji instructed. From his point of view, they were all young people and probably did not have much experience in such a place. Their adaptability was not as strong as theirs. "All right," Feng Jiao replied with a smile, looking at Du Fan and the rest. "Let's go. We'll go take a look first." "Yes," they replied and stood up. "Then we'll go first. If we don't find anything, we'll meet again." Feng Jiao nodded at Gu Cheng and the rest. "Be careful," Gu Cheng said, watching them leave before sitting down again. Seeing them leave, Wan Pingji seemed to have thought of something, slapping his forehead. This elder Jiang said he was going to find some information, but in the end, he did not tell us anything. "Old Gu, what did you mean by what you said that day? What did you ask Elder Jiang to find out?" Gu Cheng's eyes flashed, looking at them. "You guys don't know?" "We don't know." Everyone shook their heads, waiting for him to continue, who knew that he would say, "If you don't know, then forget it. There's nothing to say." Instantly, everyone felt their breath being hung up, stuck in their throats, neither going up nor down. It was very uncomfortable. On the other side, Fengjiu and the rest left for the mountain peak. On the way, Du Fan asked, Master, do you think that the ancient Qilin beast is at that mountain peak? On the map, the surrounding mountains more or less have trees. Only that mountain peak does not have a single blade of grass. Maybe it's because of the different geology, or maybe it's because there's magma underground. As for whether the ancient Qilin beast is there, we have to go take a look to know. Fengjiu said slowly. His footsteps were extremely fast, and the few people behind him followed closely. After the few of them passed through the forest, they went over 3 more mountains before they saw the barren mountain peak. They stood on their flying swords and looked down from above. The surrounding mountains were intertwined with one another, and in the middle, there was a barren mountain peak. Not only was there no grass growing on the mountain peak, even a large area around the foot of the mountain was barren. Let's go down and take a look, Fengjiu said as he descended from the sky. With a tap of his foot, he withdrew the flying feather and landed on the mountain peak. Standing on the peak, he could feel the heat emitted from below. Obviously, this place was hotter than other places. Even the soil was faintly emitting heat. There was not even a single ferocious beast in sight. This kind of place is naturally barren. If I'm not wrong, the magma should be at the foot of this mountain peak, underground, and the ancient Qilin beast should also be hiding here, Fengjiu said as he stared at the place below his feet. The ancient Qilin beast was here.